Hello and welcome to another episode of Level 1 Adventuring. I am always am your host and dungeon master, Wolf Scott. It is a pleasure to be back here with you doing something I didn't think we'd be touching for a while, but there was a recent release, and so now we're going to play with it again, and that is a solo TTRPG, at least how I'm playing it, a solo tabletop role-playing game, by the name of Outsiders. Now, Outsiders is the sequel to a previous game that we've already played on the stream once called Notorious. So if you missed that playthrough, it's going to be linked probably in all the places that you're watching this on YouTube. You can catch up to that playthrough there. But if you haven't watched it, I'm going to do a brief recap here anyway to kind of give you a vibe for what's happening. So if you're into tabletop role-playing games, if you're interested in solo tabletop role-playing games, and if you especially are fans of sci-fi, of Star Wars, things like The Mandalorian, then you are going to feel right at home with this game. I assure you that is definitely the flavor that it is prodding at. But before we jump into recaps and gameplays and all of that fun stuff, let's talk a little bit about the channel itself. We are Level 1 Adventuring. If you are new to us, what are we? Who are we? We are, as you are seeing tonight, a primarily TTRPG and role-playing game-focused channel. I do playthroughs of big group games, things like you're familiar with D&D. Right, I have an ongoing 5th edition D&D campaign, which you can watch. Live episodes on Twitch, previous episodes on YouTube. I also run solo RPG episodes whenever the mood and the time affords itself, or the mood takes me and the time affords itself, like tonight. And you can, once again, watch those episodes previously on YouTube or the upcoming ones on Twitch. And also, whenever I feel, well, mostly when I have low head count, I will play other popular role-playing games. We're playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now. We play City of Heroes with the community, which is very fun. So there's a lot of stuff for you to watch, and if you are interested in any of it, I highly recommend you check it out. As a completely biased opinion, I think it's a great time. Speaking of playing with the community and having a good time, I'm going to quickly plug something right here as I scene transition. So Level 1 Adventuring has its own 5th edition West Marches style play-by-post D&D campaign that's run on its Discord server. It's set in the same homebrew world as the 5th edition campaign that you can watch, but it is free to open and open to anyone who wants to play with us, whether you're new or a veteran. There are factions to join, multiple adventures happening simultaneously with the community members. It's a really fun time. I'm happy that we finally got it kicked off, and I would love to see more people join and make characters and have some fun with it. It's super casual. It's play by post, right? It's all over Discord, so it's not a huge commitment of your time, but it could be a cool opportunity for you to make some friends and play some Dungeons and Dragons, so we hope to see you there. But now getting back to just chatting. I guess I'll also just take a moment to plug all of our locations, right? Please follow us on Twitch, on YouTube, on X, or Twitter, whatever they're calling it now, where I post go-lives. Follow us on the Discord, where I also post go-lives, content that I create for 5th edition, and of course, we play D&D there, so it's a good time for all. But that being said, oh, and last thing, a big shout out to Streamlabs, Stream Audio, Stream Spell, Tabletop Audio, Epidemic Sound, what else? AI TwitchBot, any of the services we help to make our stream run a bit more smoothly, look cool and interactive. It is all due to those services, and if you plan on using them for yourself, you can use the links provided down below. You get a kickback, we get a kickback, everyone is happy. Okay, now with that all being said, I think my normal spiel is over, which means we can talk a little bit more about Outsiders, and more importantly, Notorious, which was its progenitor game, right? So I'm gonna go to my my solo stream here. Beautiful. Okay, so what is Outsiders? What is Notorious? So this is a game. It was originally created by Jason Price, who goes by Always Checkers on X and likely other platforms. You can buy both Notorious and its sequel game Outsiders, which we'll be playing tonight, there, right? I'm gonna turn down my headphones a little bit. It's always hard balancing the music for 2 different locations at once. You can download both games there. And I think they're like $10, so you get a lot of content for the amount of stuff that you're buying. What Outsiders is it's kind of like a sequel to Notorious. So we're gonna see here, if we scroll down a little bit, there's a section that's called Trilogy Mode, right? This is the rulebook right now that I have open with all this beautiful artwork and styling, by the way. So, like, you know, be jealous because it looks really great. But we're going to be essentially playing Trilogy Mode. So what this game is, it's a solo RPG based off of the fantasy of being a bounty hunter in a universe like Star Wars. You're going to see a lot of the worlds and factions that are, you know, inherent to the play of Outsiders and Notorious, are very much Star Wars coded. The Empire, the New Uprising, you know, there are space slugs who have gangs. You know, it's all very similar in tone and theme, but set in its own sort of universe, so that you can kind of play around with it and make things up as you see fit. And you play what is known as a nomad. And a nomad is essentially a bounty hunter. And you will take various contracts by these factions, hunt down, you know, ne'er-do-wells, or I guess innocent people who are being framed by terribly evil organizations and corporations. However your story seems to play out. And you hunt them, and you capture them or kill them, depending on your code of ethics. And you sort of follow the prompts generated by the game to tell a unique story. Now, why Trilogy Mode is unique is that if you play through Notorious, essentially Notorious is you create your first character, and you take them through a contract. And from there, if you want, you can make new contracts and new modes of play and new places to go. But there's really no sort of like inherent bonus or benefit or incentive for doing that. It's kind of just like vibes, right? Like if you want to play again and tell another story with the same character, you can. Trilogy Mode says there is actually now a point and an incentive to create multiple adventures for this one nomad, because you'll actually able to progress, gain bonuses between the different stories and link them together and have a cohesive narrative for your character. And obviously it is designed to be played in a trilogy, because what Star Wars adjacent game would not be complete were it not to be played in a trilogy. So that is how it works. Now, Notorious offers, when you create your character, there are various different types of nomads you can make, various different types of bounty hunters that you can be, right? When you get Outsiders, which is, I'm trying to more of this beautiful art here, when and if you get Outsiders, they actually give you entirely new types of bounty hunters that you can generate, right? So basically the game starts off, if you buy just Notorious, then you are adventuring through the first sort of inner system of worlds. You have 6 bounty hunter types to choose from and create. Now, if you get Outsiders, which is this one right here, there's actually 6 more bounty hunters that you can choose from. So you have a total of 12 different bounty hunter types to create and generate. And then you actually get to go to the Outer Rim, right, if you will. And I don't know what they call it in here, but in Star Wars terminology, you get to leave the core worlds to discover more of the universe, the multiverse, the omniverse, however you will, and take new contracts. And that's where Outsiders comes in. So it generates you new prompts to be played in trilogy mode with new characters if you want. And then finally, and if you play the third episode, the third and final installment, you get to sort of mix prompts from both Outsiders and Notorious. So you're creating a more fused story between the two different sources. Well, for people who are familiar with our... Fleetwood says, hello, Halcyon Killer. JK, hello. Okay, Fleetwood, here's the thing that I found out. This is a slight aside from those of you who are watching for Notorious tonight. So I actually, once I found out that I accidentally killed Halcyon on my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, spoiler alert if you're watching that as well and you haven't seen the latest episode, I actually decided to like look up if there's any way to bring him back. As far as I can tell, I can't. But I also looked up like what I did to make that happen, and I am so annoyed at the trigger for this event, because basically what I read was, if you start the search for Halcyon, right, but then you enter the like the Underdark zone before, I guess, speaking with him, that is what causes the murder, right, or the death of Halcyon. And what I'm so mad about is, yes, I did explore the temple enough so that I found the tunnel into the Underdark. And like, as just like I'm curious, I climbed the ladder down. I walked around for 5 seconds, just like looked at some mushrooms. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think I need to be here yet. I still have business on the surface. I gotta go find Halcyon. And then I went back up the ladder. But I'm pretty sure that me walking down the ladder is what triggered the series of events that killed Halcyon. So I'm very annoyed that I decided to indulge my curiosity for that moment, because I think that's what cost him his life. And yeah, that's a little story about my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, which I'm sure you would be very riveted to watch me fumble my way through that on stream. But anyway, as I was saying, you can use Notorious and Outsiders to build your story. Now, you could start with a bounty hunter from Outsiders if you like the flavor of those particular hunters. But I already have a pre-created bounty hunter, a pre-created nomad, who's already gone through his own journey in episodes past. So I think what we'll do now is we'll take a little bit of time to introduce you to that previous adventurer and the the series of misfortunes that have led him into this current situation. So I'm going to introduce y'all to Red R. Kent, Space Cowboy Extraordinaire. Okay, so what is Red R. Kent's story? Red R. Kent was one of the original 6 bounty hunters from Notorious. The archetype is Scoundrel. Very much a gunslinger. Very much, you know, like I said, space cowboy, laser pistol in hand. That's kind of the vibe we're going for here. Red R. Kent's story in a nutshell was that he was raised by another nomad by the name of Kel Woe, right? Sort of picked up as a boy after being orphaned, right? And trained in the ways of gunslinging and bounty hunting. It's all he's ever really known. Kel adopted Red R because he lost his own son to the notorious Targ hoverbike gangs that stalk the inner systems. And so we saw a bit of himself in Red R, the sort of displaced, hard scrabble young man, and wanted to try and make something out of him. So trained him to be a nomad, a bounty hunter. Some unfortunate things then happened to Redar. Redar lost Kel. We don't know if Kel is dead. What we do know is that Kel, during a mission, there was this, what I called a warp bomb, which was kind of like a weapon that was designed to explode and then mass teleport whatever was in its radius, to some unknown distance away. And there was this moment where this warp bomb was going to go off, but the only way to disable it was to shoot through Kel to disable it. And Kel told Redar to do it, but Redar could not bring himself to do it. And he hesitated, did not pull the trigger. The warp bomb went off and sent not only all of these, random innocents that were within the zone of the warp bomb, but also Kel himself was lost in the blast radius. So we don't know if Kel is truly dead. We know that at the very least he's been far flung to some unknown corner and reach of space that maybe Redar will never see again. But it's something that weighs on Redar very heavily. So ever since, he's been taking bounty hunting jobs, following in Kel's footsteps, and looking for a lead on Kel. Which brings us to Notorious, our playthrough of our first part of our trilogy from the Notorious sequence. So basically, Redar Kent ends up on this desert planet. He is hunting a Pellucid, who's like a crystal person, who is help peddling spice, which, obviously borrowed from Dune, is some sort of toxicant, very lucrative sort of contraband substance. It turns out, in all of our adventuring across this desert planet, which I believe I still have the name here, Talus, yeah, this is Talus, Navi, Talus. After all of this running across the desert worlds, we find out that Navi never existed. Navi was actually a ruse, was actually a guise, a setup by another nomad, spoiler alert, by the name of Danica LaFoe. Danica LaFoe is an assassin archetype nomad. She has all of these mechanical augments. She has like holographic eyes. She has a big sniper rifle, has like a invisibility cloak, right? And I gave her a sort of a fancy French accent. And Danica LaFoe is also an old friend, or perhaps more, of Kel's, who has a big chip on her shoulder for Redar losing sight of Kel, which she believes maybe even, did him in for some unknown end. And this was all a ruse. It was all a clever ploy to get Redar out into, deserted sort of desert planet and then put him down. Which we fought nobly, we fought valiantly against Danica, and we managed to defeat her. And we had the option of taking her in or putting her out of her misery. And despite our, against our own preservational instincts, we decided to save her, because it was not guild code, to let our feelings get involved and take matters into our own hands when it comes to inter-nomad conflict. So then, when we resolved the end of the adventure, because there's like this whole system you have to go through, you track your progress through the rest of the hunt to see where you end up, right, with the epilogue of the adventure. It turns out the Danica escapes. Danica escapes, manages to pin the bounty that was originally set on her fake target on our heads, since we had no person to pony up to our contractor, and essentially, positions herself in such a way that if she needs to, now she can hunt Redar somewhat lawfully, because we now have a bounty on her head. Which has really just punished us, ultimately for our mercy there, which actually now brings us into Outsiders, because Outsiders specifically takes place with your hunter, your nomad, on the fringes of space, right? So considering where our last adventure, the first part of our trilogy, ended, with Redar Kent being chased out of the core systems because of this bounty that's been placed on his head, it actually puts us in like a wonderfully set up scenario, a justified reason for him to be in the outer systems, right? Because now he's trying to scrabble up enough dough to, clear his own bounty off of his head, which obviously there's going to be a lot more nomads operating well-equipped in the core systems. So trying to buy himself some time, some credits out in the fringes of space, and to hopefully not make sure that Danica ends up chasing him down. So that is our story from where we're at to where we're going. Just a brief little, recap on Redar himself. So Redar is a human. This was sort of like some art we generated at the time because, we needed to have some sort of visual aid. So Redar is very much a space cowboy. You can imagine he's wearing a modified duster with a whole bunch of different hard scrabble, techno mechanical pieces on him. I like to imagine that he wears a helmet that kind of looks like a Daft Punk helmet, like the one with the big black, mirror faceplate. But that faceplate can sort of open, which reveals his true face, which is, a weathered, battered, grizzled, but, still handsome man. He's seen some hard times, but he's still, he can still put on the charm if he needs to. But he wears, his cowboy hat over his faceplate. He also is missing an eye, which has been replaced by sort of like a targeting reticle sort of mechanical device there, which of course links into his faceplate when it's all closed. So it just helps him aim and blast his opponents more easily. His loadout is pretty simple. The scoundrel archetype, which I chose, is very much sort of the glass cannon, I feel, of the ones that are available, because it comes with laser pistols, which have big ranged attack damage, but the melee attack, it's originally, I think, styled as like a shock baton, but what I decided to retroactively, design it as were they're sort of shock modules built into the handles of his pistols. So when he's like, shooting, like spin him around and whack, and there's like a, electrical charge, stuns people. Little gun fu in there. But yeah, he's not as strong in the melee. It's only a +2 bonus as opposed to +4. And it actually gets weaker after the first stun strike. So very much a glass cannon, a ranged glass cannon, and he has very little defense. His duster and his his wide-brimmed hat does very little to block lasers and shrapnel. So that's kind of his his weakness, if you will. And I think that he's also sort of cocky and arrogant. He wears this garish clothing. The things I said about his clothing that were sort of unique. So he does have a hover bike, and the spurs on his boots, which allow them to connect into his hover bike, of course, make your traditional cowboy clink clink steps when he moves, because obviously. And I described his duster as kind of having these. I don't know if you're familiar with the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson, but I just was in the middle of it when I was designing this character. So the idea of the mist cloak was very much in my head, where there's sort of these tattered strips of hardened leather that hang down, so that when the characters move, there's all these sort of tendrils that float around them, which is something I definitely had in mind for Redar's equipment, and also it's kind of cool. It kind of hides his arms and his body until he's drawing his pistols, and then you have to contest with where does your eye go. There's these fluttering, tassels, and then the bow comes out. Other things that we should know about Redar before we jump into the adventure proper. Redar's got some enemies. Redar has never been friends with the Targ cartel. The Targs are kind of like the Hutts in this universe, right? He wasn't friends with them even before his most recent escapades, because the Targ were responsible for Kel's son's death. So there's a bit of a bad blood even to start, but during the course of our last adventure through Notorious, minor spoiler alert, he ends up getting into a lot of hot water with some Targ higher-ups, a gang leader by the name of Mina Vi, and just straight up murders her dead. So obviously, that probably doesn't shine well on him and his activity with the Targ cartel, which by proxy makes him sort of an enemy of the Huska's Corsairs, I believe they're called. So in Outsiders, there are actually 6 new factions to branch off of the original 6 from Notorious. But all of these factions have allies, and they have, what's the word? Sort of like their brother and sister factions, their sibling factions from the original release, right? So the Targ's gang is allied, is sort of an extension of Huskar's Corsairs, who are space pirates. They operate from a warship known as Restless Fortune, right? So I'm not friends with the Targ, which means I'm probably not friends with Huskar's Corsairs, which is fair enough. Another enemy that we have, a more recent enemy, is the Red Moon Syndicate. These were the spicers, the spice dealers that put the original hit out on Navi Mod. And once we found out that Navi Mod wasn't real, and we tried to report that to the Red Moon Syndicate, they decided to call bullshit on that, especially with all of Danica's subterfuge and sabotage and misinformation that she had already put out there. So the Red Moon is the one who transferred the hit that was on Navi to us. So they obviously are not our friends. And then, by extension, we are not friends with the Kuda Gang. The Kuda Gang are spice miners. So they are the miners who then transport everything to the Red Moon Syndicate. The Kuda Gang operates in the outer sectors of space where Outsiders takes place. So they are not very keen on us, and that is all well and good. Well, I guess not all well and good, but it makes sense. And then our final enemy, our final least favorite friend, Danica LaFoe, who once again was the rival nomad who shot us down, shot us dead with her... Well, I guess she didn't shoot us dead. She almost shot us dead. With her sort of stealth powers, her light-empowered sniper rifle, but we ended up getting the best of her in the very end. But she's still on the loose and wants to take a bite out of us. So that is sort of where our our current space with Red R is at. So we talked a lot about Job 1. We talked a lot about Red R Kenth. Let's talk a little bit about Job 2, the second half of our trilogy. Or I guess the second third of our trilogy. Our job, if we choose to accept it, and we do, we are set to hunt an individual by the name of Wald Nukili. Now, Wald Nukili is of the species called the Quadoi, who are basically most discerned by their 4 arms. So I wrote here that they have these long, spindly limbs. They have 4 long arms. I wrote that Wald in particular has blue skin. And their notable feature, his notable feature, Wald, is that he has a series of facial tattoos which all connect to these sort of very extravagant jewelry pieces. So I like to imagine, like his nostrils, even if like they're like slits, right, are like linked to like a chain, which links to the ear, which like has a cuff, which is built into like another one that droops down and maybe hangs, the cool bauble. The same thing over here. Maybe you have one that like links to like a lip ring and like a several studs. He's pretty much all pierced up, and all these different chains and little glowing gemstones and mechanical bits are hanging from them. So not the most inconspicuous person, we'll say that much. But has a very cool aesthetic. Personality. Wald is quiet, cagey, shifty, suspicious to a fault. So it's no I guess surprise that someone who is maybe used to being underhanded and being a little more willing to engage in mysterious activity is now being hunted through the outer systems. And because of his personality, we had a couple different prompts for Wald, maybe a unique factor about him. And the factor that we got was that what small handheld item do they fidget with constantly? And so for Wald, what I envisioned is he kind of has this like this puzzle cube, like this little tech puzzle cube that he's constantly sort of trading within his 4 arms, his 4 hands. But it's like the self-configuring tech puzzle, right? Like After he solves it, it will like alter itself into like a new shape or form, or perhaps if he doesn't solve it quickly enough, it starts to undo the progress that he's made. So it's kind of like this fidget spinner logic test, dexterity test. It's sort of constantly whirring, and he is picking through it at all times to occupy his mind and his hands. Now, the contractor for Wald. This is kind of a big one, because this, considering Redar's history, this is a very interesting contract to have. So his contractor is the Admiral's Fleet. So the Admiral's Fleet is actually an extension of the old Empire, right? Which you can imagine in a Star Wars-based world is like the Empire, right? Or at least the remnants of the Empire trying to reclaim its former glory. The Admiral's Fleet, as named, is a very powerful fleet that is controlled by an influential admiral of the old empire who's trying to reach back out into the outer sectors of space, get a new foothold of power, begin a new branch of influence across that sector. And the reason why this is really important is because the planet itself, which we'll talk about in a moment, the empire, the old empire, is sort of a challenging faction. It's sort of wrestling control from a larger faction, which is allied with our enemies, the Targ. So, and the minor faction is actually the Kuda Gang, which are aligned with the Red Moon, who also hate us. So essentially, we are kind of wading into enemy territory here, hoping to get a big enough buyout from the Empire to buy our freedom back, essentially our liberty back, right? Like our sense of safety back. So it's kind of a big gamble for Redar, but Redar's never been one to shy away from a challenge, so that's kind of where we're set up here. But the contract itself is interesting because the target, who is Wald, stole some secret technology from the fleet, and now the Admiral wants it back, right? So the thing that I have sort of rolled ahead of time, I do have some useful tools I have when I'm self-GMing, and some of which come from the GM emulator, which is a great tool to use if you're doing solo RPGs. They give you lots of great rolling tables and things to play with. So I rolled some events for the GM emulator, and I got when I was trying to say, what does this technology do, right, that Wald stole that the Admiral wants back? I got the answers of separate dangers, right? And so to me, when I'm thinking of like separate dangers, I'm thinking of like a radar screen where you can see all the different blips of like where the enemies are from like a great distance, separate dangers. And so what I imagine is that Wald is probably ex-Empire, or, maybe a contractor under the Empire, who helped develop some very powerful, high-range, like deep space, intersector radar that was going to greatly increase the offensive power and the defensive capabilities of the Admiral's fleets of warships that are traveling through the outside sectors. And of course, if they can reproduce the technology into all of the old Empire's fleets on a long enough timeline. But Wald, for one reason or another, took that. Maybe he's trying to make a quick buck off of it. Maybe he's having a crisis of conscience. Who knows? But that is what he did and who wants him. And then the final piece that we have to talk about is the planet that we're on, right? So the planet that we're on is called Khatun, which is a prison planet. Now, what's interesting about Khatun is when you read prison planet, you'd probably think, I don't know, somewhere that's like orderly and all, regimented and disciplined and locked down and all that stuff. But when you read some of the flavor text, which accompanies Khatun, you start to see a different picture, right? So you land your ship at night in the scavenged wreckage of an enormous Empire walker. So for the first thing we realize is that, the Empire has like remnants. They have ruins here. Doesn't really seem like they're in much control. Then we see that the terrain has Corsair flags, towering walls with barren scrublands, hastily abandoned buildings, right? Hey, it's your boy Loki. So good to see you. It's been a while since I've had you in chat, Loki. Happy to have you back. I expect gangs and Mad Max, honestly. I mean, this, if it's run by the Targ cartel, or I guess the Corsairs and by extension the cartel, hover gang bikes, Mad Max style crawlers are definitely in our future. But yeah, we start to get the idea, at least I start to get the idea, that perhaps the prison planet was once in control by the old empire, and perhaps due to Corsair, raids or prison riots, or a combination of both, that eventually the criminals sort of broke free, overtook the surface of Katoon, and so now it is very much like this lawless, hazardous, I don't want to say metropolis because that implies that there's actually like progress and advancement, but it's the skeleton of a civilization which is now being run by all of these former inmates and space pirates and gangers, right? That now the old empire is desperately trying to wrestle control back over. And so it paints a very interesting picture for how this planet is going to look and feel. So as I mentioned, the controlling faction are the Corsairs. So we got some Targ allies controlling it. The challenging faction is the Admiral's Fleet. So that is the old Empire adjacent. And then the minor is the Kuda gang. So we have two people who don't like us and we don't like them. But we have one faction who, Redar isn't exactly crazy for. Redar had multiple, I think, altercations with the Empire in the previous contract, but not enough to like totally, I guess, what's the word? Make strange bedfellows out of all of them, right? Like the Admiral's fleet is still willing to work with the Nomad, who scuffles with a few of their soldiers. Whereas the gangs are having a much harder time reconciling Radar's presence. Loki says, Katoon sounds like a place to have a good time, like, crime and death and murder and stuff. Oh, absolutely. Katoon is, it is a den of depravity and murderous intent. That is what I fully imagine. And I should mention that all of these things, except for the things you're seeing me implant from the GM emulator, are randomly rolled and supplied by the rulebook itself. So if you are new to this game and you are wanting to, play for yourself, it gives you a lot to work with already. The predominant species of Katoon are the Besnik, the Kiono, and the Brack. The Besnik are sort of like a pig or like hog-like lineage. I imagine they're probably like the Gamorreans of Star Wars, right? The Kiono have dog or hound-like features, and the Brack are rock folk. So the good news is Wald is not in the predominant species of Katoon, so probably going to be a little easier to pick him out of a crowd, or like people will probably notice him more readily. But this is still a prison planet, so I'm sure there are plenty of inmates from all across space being held here, even though this is sort of the outer sectors. So I imagine if you are a prison planet in the outer sectors of space, like this is where they keep some pretty bad guys. Some pretty bad people who they don't want to see I was gonna say the light of day, the light of the stars of space anytime soon. So we have our work cut out for us. But I think we have sort of done enough discovery, we've sort of done enough getting to the beginning of the adventure to actually start rolling some tables and seeing where we begin. So like I like to imagine, Redar has been adrift in the outer sectors of space for quite some time, trying to rummage a meager, measly existence for himself, constantly under watch of Danica LaFoe and her rifle, and of course the Red Moon and the Targ. Eventually, he gets notified and I wrote this down too because I thought this was an interesting character before. We had a character by the name of Itsuki Ich, who was a fellow nomad we were friends with. We found her on the desert planet. She was another assassin, another assassin-style nomad that we had worked with before. She's got red and blue eyes that, like, you know, are that sort of have like a light behind them, probably prosthetic in some way. But then she has reversed red and blue, like sort of technotronic tattoos, like embedded down her arms. She's got like faded hair with like shaved shapes, like geometric shapes into them, and like a bold emo bang, right? Wearing her black cowl. So she is very much a friend of Red R and knows that Red R is good for his word and knows that Danica is up to no good and is sort of like his point of contact in the inner systems during this exile that he's been forced into, right? And so Itsuki is feeding him a lot of information about Danica's whereabouts or the current goings-on of the Red Moon or even like the Nomad Council to sort of keep him abreast of like his safety, but also feeding him information on possible leads to buy back, you know, his freedom. And so I think, you know, as Red R is, I imagine it's very sort of Cowboy Bebop, right? Like Red R is been sleeping and living in his personal spacecraft, sort of drifting on low power on the furthest reaches of space. He's asleep. His face visor is down, but his cowboy hat is like pushed over his head, and he's reclined in his pilot's seat. He probably has like a cigarette which is still lit, you know, hanging from the edge of his lips, dark circles and bags under his eyes, and he's probably holding, you know, the equivalent of space coffee in a thermos in his hand, which is just dangling uselessly by his side, maybe dripping errantly onto the floor, sleepless, hopeless, you know, just sort of waiting for either death or salvation, whichever comes first. And it's at that moment that, you know, there's sort of like a whip, 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 you know, from the console. And I think there's like a moment where Red R shoots up, half expecting it to be some sort of notification of like enemy combatant. So, you know, One tarnation of it, and, you know, reaches down and like grabs for his gun and like looks up, but just sees it is the notification system for his spacecraft. It's a coded channel, right? Loki says bunny slippers, absolutely. Although you know, it's like space rabbits, so maybe they have like 3 ears, 3 ears and one big eye in the center, just to like give it odd numbers on each. But then, you know, the coded channel comes through. He like looks at it. He sees it as being sent from Itsuki, and with a big sigh of relief, he opens up the communications. Oh, stars above, Itsuki. I thought for a second I was getting shot into the void. What is going on? You don't give nobody a warning no more. And then, you know, you see Itsuki looking very unenthused on the other side of the chat visor, if you will, looking all moody and cyberpunk as she does. Even if I would have messaged you that I was going to be calling you today at some point, I doubt you would have got it. You never respond to my messages, Red R. You haven't for weeks now. And, you know, Red R sort of like lets that wash over him. Itsuki, I'm sorry, you know I'm laying low. I ain't letting nothing but the most high priority of messages come through. It's been real rough out here on the Outer Rim. I haven't been able to catch rest on myself in a long time. And Itsuki like holds up her hand. I know, Red R, you don't have to explain yourself. It's just, I'm worried about you, okay? This can't continue. You can't keep living the way that you're living. You're gonna waste away out there at the edge of the rim, all right? And, you know, Red R sort of hangs his head low in his head, and his hat sort of falls down. I'm fine, Itsuki. You don't gotta worry about me. I'll figure it out. I've been through worse scrapes. Danica can't hold me down forever. And then that's when Itsuki's like sort of, you know, little light pings, you know, in her head for a moment. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly why I've been trying to call you. There's been some movement in the rim. particularly with the fleet, with the old Empire. It looks like they're stretching back in your direction, and they're looking for help. And that's when sort of Redar quirks his brow. Old Empire's coming my way. What do they need to do so far out of the inner systems? And Itsuki sort of nods her head and weighs her options. Well, apparently, the higher-ups, the admirals, are thinking this might be a worthwhile territory to start investing in, and they need some help pushing out some of your less than agreeable friends, the Targs, the Corsairs. To this, you can see Redar. There's like a what's the word? A twinge at the edge of his eye. He grits his teeth, but there's almost a smile. He hates them with all of his being, but there's almost a part of him that's excited for a fight. You don't say, Itsuki. You always come in with the good info, so why don't you keep yapping? And that's when Itsuki, sort of starts typing on her computer, and you can see all these files pull up on Redar's HUD on his spaceship's visor on the shield, the defensive shield. The old Empire is looking for someone, maybe Targ affiliated, maybe not, but at any rate, they're in Targ territory near you, an old prison planet by the name of Katoon. And beep, 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 pulling up all the different the sort of space mock-ups of the trajectories between where he is and where he can go. Now, the target it goes by the name of Wald Nukili, right? A Quadoi. 4 arms, blue skin, can't miss him. Apparently, some sort of high-up engineer, techno-wizard, develops radar systems. Now, Wald was in league with the old Empire until something went sour and he ran off with a vital piece of their equipment. The old Empire won't say exactly what it is or how critical for their operations it has become, but they are serious enough to chase him down in the middle of Corsair core territory. Okay? Katoon is overrun with murderers, cutthroats, thieves, liars, and then she sort of looks at him with a prodding gaze. Your kind of place. This is apparently where Wald is staking out. Maybe he's trying to find a buyer. Maybe he's trying to wait just long enough for the old Empire to lose steam on their search, but there's a brief window of time, Redar, where if you can get to him first, before the old Empire can, or before any of these other nomads can catch wind of him, that is going to put more than enough credits in your pocket to buy off this false accusation that Danica's put on your head from the Red Moon. And so Redar starts thinking over his options. Well, touching down on Katoon seems about as wise as letting a space rat buddy up with you for the night, but I feel as though if you're giving this to me straight, the credits are good, the old Empire's got enough for it. Might be one way through. Send me them coordinates, I'll take a look into it. And then Itsuki, nods, beep, 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 slams on the keys a little bit, pulls up new files. You see the license for her and Redar. You can see she transfers the bounty license from her into Redar's name. Right, doing some sort of some shady sort of back alley techno devising here to get Redar in the perfect space to take on this contract with minimal notice. But when all is said and done, Redar has now acquired the contract to hunt Wald, and he now has the coordinates to Katoon. Itsuki, finally gives him one long last look. I know that you have to do this. You don't have much choice, but watch yourself out there. Take care of yourself. Danica has not given up the search for you. She's posting about you all the time on the network, okay? There's going to be more than just her eyes looking for you out there, and more than enough barrels and scopes as well. And Redar sort of smiles. Is that the faint whiff of concern I hear you have for me, Itsuki? And Itsuki's, look of genuine care suddenly like twists into a frown. Don't flatter yourself, Kent. And so like beep, cuts off the communications. And then Redar lines up the coordinates into his onboarding. Well, can't blame a man for trying. And he sort of like tips his hat to no one, hits the autopilot, and jets off in the direction of Katoon. So let us head to. Oh, that's one thing about my PDF which I'm a little sad about, is that the indexing doesn't work quite as well as I'd like. It always just seems to bring you back to the like top space, which is a little annoying. So I kind of have to manually scroll through some of this, which hopefully won't be a big deal. But So the first thing that we do is we're going to take a look at our exploration. So to play the game, you essentially go through two phases. You explore, and then you, once you explore, you'll hit a destination. You do a destination event. This may lead you into interacting with one or more characters, some of which may be leads that get you closer to your target, and one which will eventually be your target, right? So, first things first. Location events for exploration. You've hidden or landed your ship and must travel on foot across the wilds of the planet unless you acquire a suitable vehicle. Well, we already know the Redar Kent's got his trusty hoverback, so where we touch down, we land our ship at night in the scavenged wreckage of an enormous old Empire walker. So I like to imagine that our craft is like sort of in stealth mode. It's a really sleek fighter, a personal ship, probably just big enough for him and maybe a couple of others in case he has to bring in multiple targets for the same contract, right? But it's not like a very big passenger vehicle. So it's already built for speed, already built for low notice, but this thing is also coming in stealth. It's coming in low power. It sinks into the darkness of Katoon. And, gets an immediate bead on a large obstruction, which he can use to hide the bulk of his ship while he's exploring the planet, which is, of course, this massive walker. So, yeah, this is probably like an old prison transport for the old Empire. I'd like to imagine that's maybe, it kind of looks like a walking jail cell. It has, like, 6... mechanical legs that are all built around this sort of maybe like octagonal base, which at one point would have held, various criminals all locked in there to transport between different lockdown zones. And of course has like massive gun emplacements at the top in case it had to defend itself against, intercepting fighters. But apparently this thing has lost one conflict and is now hollowed out, fallen on one side. There's a couple legs blown off. The remaining ones are stretching out into this sort of canyon, which is like holding the birth of the weight of this mechanical behemoth. But the big hole blown into its side and how it's nestled into this rock formation gives Redar the perfect opportunity to sidle in to this long abandoned, and I imagine scavenged vehicle. Like I imagine a lot of prisoners would have already combed through this thing, gutted it, and so now it's of very little use to anyone here, which makes it perfect for storing his vehicle for the time being. But of course, the back of the his spaceship pops open, and then you hear the and it's the hover bike, which is, he's seated upon, which is slowly filtering down from the landing ramp. And then, of course, the ship closes its panel behind him, and there's a few beep, boop, deep, doop, deep, beeps on maybe a risk communicator as the ship activates all of its defense protocols in his absence. Redar can now look out into Katoon proper, and it is barren. It is forlorn. I like to imagine that it's sort of like this craggy moonstone kind of world. It's all an endless expanse of harsh, gray, jagged rocks and stones. The scrublands, are probably these like I like to imagine they kind of look like wheat or like those stocky sort of seaweed, but maybe they're sort of like an odd color, like a red and like gray, like gold. They kind of look like they're browning and drying out in this deep, dark sector of space. They once were like more vibrant, but now they're fallen into disrepair. No one's taking care of the fauna here. It's all sort of, or foliage out here. It's all overgrown and drying out. But it's nothing but like cold, hard, gray stone for as far as the eye can see, dotted by the occasional walker, hangar, corpse, or downed spaceship, and the horizon line of the various prison ward zones and towers that stretch on. And of course, the newest development, these Corsair flags. So we talked about how the Targ symbol was an orange spiral with like a red X cut through the center. And so the Corsair space pirates, because they're affiliated with the Targs, it's probably a similar symbol, but maybe instead of an X, it's kind of like a starburst, right? Because they're like the space pirate variant. So you have these like orange flags with these like white spirals and these red starbursts in the center, which are, they're littered with laser blaster fire, and they're all frayed at the end, and some are like torn up. And you can see some of them are actually broken through where the old Empire flags used to stand. The old Empire we talked a lot about in the previous episodes, as they were all about red. Like they wore a lot of crimson armor. Their main armament and their main symbol was like the hammer, because they had a gravity hammer as like their primary melee weapon. So those flags are like being dominated by the Corsair flags. So that's sort of and there's like there's just like the faintest like whisper of wind, right? It's eerily quiet. There's just black sky with the faintest pinpricks of starlight above us, because we're so far out in the deep sectors of space. The other planets are so far away from us. This is a prison planet. This is designed to be out of the way. So the entire planet is sort of constantly awash in, gray and darkness, and it just feels isolated and alone, because that is what was the intention for the prison planet. But now it is a place rife with intrigue and mystery and the possibility for Redar to buy his freedom. And so as Redar looks out over this very sad state of affairs of Katoon, he narrows his eyes on the horizon. His visor shunts close, and you can see it whir to life with like the holographic targeting assistance on there. Well, Wald, it's just you and me now. Come out, wherever you are. When like revs up the hoverbike as it shoots off of the edge of sort of the elevated position of where the old walker was collapsed, and then lands with a mighty chunk, and then hovers back into place on top of the landscape, on top of Katoon's surface, and then speeds off into the darkness. So the first thing we have to do is we have to roll an exploration event. So to use the exploration events table, roll 2 dice. I would love to. Everything rolls off of a d6 as well, so very easy to manage your dice. You don't need like a d8, d4, d20, all that stuff. You just need 2d6, or 1d6 that you roll twice. One determines which of the 3 tables you'll roll on, and the other is the event. So that means we're going to be rolling on table 5 to 6, which is the 3rd, and we get event 1. We crouch at the edge of a clearing. Soldiers from the controlling faction are rotating a large weapon, aiming at a ship. Okay, so if this is the controlling faction, hopefully I can copy and paste this pretty easily. Exploration 1. Oh, I can. We love to see it. We love to see an easy copy-paste. So if this is the soldiers of the controlling faction, that means that the faction is the Corsairs, who are not our friends because they are Targ adjacent. And if they're aiming at a ship in the air, I'm assuming they're probably firing at an old Empire patrol vessel, right? Who's trying to keep an eye on the surface to see if there are any weak points they can exploit to expand their foothold on Katoon. So, we're hover biking our way up. We get to the top of like a rock formation. We look down into the valley as we can see a bunch of Corsair flags surrounding what appear to be a repurposed old Empire orbital cannon, right? It probably has like a Corsair graffiti sprayed and scratched across it, like Huskas forever, you know, Corsairs. Rock, you know, all this kind of, it's like they're not the brightest, but they got the job done, and now they're in control of things that are far beyond their ken or should be their responsibility, and that's why they're very dangerous. So we have a couple of options. Watch as they blow the challenging faction ship out of the sky. Gain 1 favor. Why did the pilot ignore this weapon's targeting lock? Or we can cause a distraction, allowing the ship to escape. Lose 1 favor. A hostile scout appears behind you. Why do you recognize this ship? Now, this is interesting. We don't have any particular love for the Old Empire, even though they are our contractor. Is it wise to rouse the suspicion of the Corsairs this early? Cause a distraction, allowing the ship to escape. Lose 1 favor. A hostile scout appears behind you. Why do you recognize this ship? Let's see. I'm kind of into the idea that maybe Redar distracts them. Just, I'm kind of into the idea that he distracts them just because they are his benefactor, which, you know, maybe he can leverage to get more of their favor on this planet. But at the same time, watch as they blow the challenging faction ship out of the sky. Gain 1 favor. Lose 1 favor. Also, when I have to remind myself of the rules for a second, because we have a favor to lose early, because we gained a favor from the original end of the first adventure. But it might not be worth losing them now. The attack action has a chance to incapacitate or kill. Add the attack challenge. Using multiple opponents. Success hostile or lead success target. Choose their fate and move to the epilogue. It's time for you to choose your fate. I don't think there's any inherent, any inherent bonus to fighting the scouts unprovoked. Because I think you only get... Oh no, success. Hostile or lead. Choose your opponent's fate. So we could gain notoriety if we win the fight. And that is actually useful, because notoriety is what gets us to our lead faster. And we already are starting with 1 notoriety because of our previous exploit. Ooh, so maybe that is truly the reason why we buy in. Yeah, the favor is useful. The favor is useful for the end of our story. It helps calculate our total success. But I think ultimately getting that that notoriety really quickly early on, getting us to our target faster is probably more valuable. So I think that's we're gonna cause a distraction. We're gonna allow the ship to escape. We also can justify the fact that, you know, it is our benefactor, so there's a reason to maybe let the ship you know, survive. We're gonna lose one favor. Okay, so Redar's at the top of this cliffside. He has his visor on. It's magnifying. It's looking at the targs. They're probably, or I should say the Corsairs, they're probably like a little drunk, and maybe they're hopped up on spice. And we're far away, right? But we can still hear them. They're like, oh yeah, blow him out of the sky. Ah, there he is. Shoot him down. Shoot him down. They're like trying to winch the giant orbital cannon in the direction of the old Empire freighter. And you can see that the freighter is trying to boot on its like thrusters to make a quick escape, but it's not like a hairpin turn kind of vehicle. Like, you can see the thrusters are starting up, and it's kind of a race to the finish. Who's going to have their thrusters boot on before the cannon swivels into position? And seeing this, Redar scans the location. His visor sort of like paints a picture of the area and looks for like heat signatures, and can see that there is a large sort of stack of thermal batteries, right, which would be used to power the orbital cannon really nearby, that they would use to like load its what's the word? It's beam. I can't think of like what would be, not gunpowder for a laser gun, but you get what I'm saying. It would fuel the weapon. And so seeing that, with one swift motion, you know, he reaches down into his duster, produces one of his hand cannons, and sort of cocks it back, and loads and aims down the barrel, sets the sights on one of the thermal batteries, and with one sort of very well-placed faithful shot, he's a sharpshooter, Redar, releases a shot, ignites one of the thermal batteries. There's a few errant sort of chained explosions as the Targ all leap for cover. Probably the explosion even further wiggles the orbital cannon off of its current trajectory. You can see a massive ray, a destructive ray, fire from the beam, but just, you know, feet away from where the old Empire freighter is. And at that moment, you can hear the engines roar on the freighter, and they, you know, hit hyperspeed, if you will, and teleport themselves out of harm's way. Nar the Necromancer says, hey, how's it going? Hi, Nar. Happy to have you. Yeah, you came in an explosion, which is very fitting, I feel, for you, my friend. Yeah, we're playing a little bit more of Notorious, the sequel, Outsiders, so happy to have you here with us. So we cause the distraction. The ship escapes. We have to lose one favor. Not the best, but we do, you know, we do get the benefit of helping out the old Empire, which makes us look better, right? And you can see as the Corsairs are running around trying to put out like sort of the plasma fire that erupted from the thermal batteries. Some of them are like stop, dropping, or rolling. Some of them are scrambling for, you know, what's the word? A cooling paste, you know, the space fire extinguisher, as you will, trying to put out one or more of the gunners. Nar says, oh neat, is this the same character or a different one? It is the same character. In Outsiders, which is the sequel to Notorious, they put in place what they call trilogy mode rules, which allows you to play, you know, a 3-part adventure with your Nomad. So we are now starting our second adventure with Redar Kent out of our trilogy. And you can see there's a certain satisfaction that Redar takes in causing all of this chaos and pain to the Corsairs, and you can hear like a self satisfied, you know, grin underneath his visor, and then from behind him, like right after that, you hear zoom, like the powering up of a laser pistol. and he stiffens, and you can, hear the voice behind him.
No sudden moves. Don't do anything too brash, wise guy. I saw what you did there. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna put that gun down nice and easy. You're gonna get on your knees, and I'm gonna radio my friends down there, okay? Don't be a hero.
And so this is where I think we have to do a little combat. So Red Arkenth, is holding the gun out. He has a gun to the back of his head from the scout, and playing it real cool. Oh there, easy now, friend. Ain't no reason to be getting hasty. I happily put this down, just give me a little breathing room. And you can see, starts lowering the pistol, and I think that is when he's gonna go to spin the pistol around to get the handle out, because the handle is what has the stun baton, right? And he's gonna try and use this moment, this opportunity, to surprise his adversary and take down the scout. So first of all, I am going to copy and paste this, because I also have to say, why do I recognize the ship? Which is a piece that we haven't answered yet. Other than the fact that, that they are a member of the old empire, and so they are our benefactors. There might be another reason why that ship is important, and we'll figure that out together. But for now, we should take a look at, remind ourselves how the attack action works. Because it's been a while, but we have a scout behind us, we got a holdout pistol to the back of our head, and now we have to see if we can take him down before something gets a little spicy. So the attack reaction is your chance to incapacitate or kill a hostile leader target. The Nomad adds their attack modifiers onto their roll, and then add the attack modifier listed for your opponent, if any. Okay, so if we're using our stun batons, the stun batons start off as a +2 because of the surprise, and then go down to a +1, right? So first things first, we're gonna roll our first roll for Redar of his new adventure, and hope for the best. Okay, a 5. A 3 + 2 is 5. That is a respectable stun baton 5. And then we also have the attacker is also attacking us at +2. So this could go, we're kind of a mid on that roll. It's a little dangerous, but we're gonna give it a shot. They're gonna roll. Oh, thank God. So then holdout pistol 3 to 5. So, we say, easy now, just give me a little breathing room. And at that point, you can feel the scout sort of go to bop him on the back of the shoulder with the butt of his gun to try and force him down quicker. You can hear him begin to say, I said get on your knees. And as he's about to, punk on the back, flawlessly, Redar flips. As the music becomes far more chill, Redar flips the gun in his hand and then lands with the stun handle first, uses his arm to scoop away the strike from the scout, and as he pushes his arm away, just wails back up with the butt of the laser pistol and catches him right in the jaw. And at first you hear the clunk of the metal against his chin, and then you hear the electricity pulse through his chin and through his skeletal systems. You can see the scout's eyes sort of widen and roll back into his head, and then just sort of falls onto the ground. There's some smoke that leaks up out of the armor as Redar manages to incapacitate the scout with one fell swoop. Hey, Agrudesu, welcome back to the stream. Happy to have you. Nara the Necromancer says, chill music during combat must be slow-mo bullet time. Honestly, kind of fitting for that very Matrix gun fu sequence from Redar. But we have the option now to hostile or lead, we choose to either kill or spare. Ah, that's really interesting, because if we spare, we just gain the favor back that we already had, but if we kill the target... Oh, Agridesu says, my stream title on YouTube is still titled 10 search. Yeah, I don't know why it keeps doing that. It keeps telling me it's updating and then it doesn't, so... thank you for the heads up, but it has been doing that for some unknown reason for the past couple streams. It seems really harsh to murder, like, the first scout that we see, but it is gonna get us the notoriety that we need to find Wald. We already have one to start. No, we have two to start. Lose one favor. Yeah, I mean, that might be a big get for us. We can get Wald really quickly. All right, I think we got to do it. I think and plus he's a scout. He's going to report, like, he's going to report that he saw us. Right now we don't know. They don't know why the thermal battery exploded. Nar said, did you say you're trying to find Waldo? No, the target's name is Wald, but that's actually hilarious that the target could be named Waldo and we're trying to find him. So that is absolutely being retconned. Yeah. Where's our target? Our target's name is Waldo Nukili. I love that. Waldo Nukili. All right. That is so funny. Okay. Yeah, honestly, it may be worthwhile to take out this scout early on. It's kind of rough. It seems kind of heartless. But hey, we're a bounty hunter, and we gotta find our targets somehow, right? So we're gonna take the option to kill them to take the notoriety. I'm gonna gain myself a notoriety, and I'm gonna go back to our exploration. So we lose one favor, which we did. A hostile scout appears behind you. Why do you recognize? Should we kill him? So I think to kill him, it's sort of the situation where Redar, you know, like we electrocute him, and we don't want to make another sound to, you know, to give the gunners in the valley below us any reason to try and find us. So we look down at the scout who's incapacitated, you know, who's sort of errantly twitching from the forced electricity that we shocked through his system. And we sort of, you know, shake our head solemnly. Well, it was either going to be me or you, friend. I ain't nothing personal. And Redar just raises that big boot with that the hover bike spurs on the back of the heel, and just brings it down with like reckless abandon on top of the scout's helmeted skull. But it does very little to give against the weight of Redar's boot, as you hear a sickening and the scout is dealt with forthright. So the scout is dead, but we gain our notoriety, right? Which is very important. Now, the last question that is sort of left hanging in this moment is, why do we recognize the ship? And I'm going to go over to the GM emulator right here, because I think that's an interesting question that we should try to answer for ourselves. And the GM emulator usually gives some really good prompts for that. So 63 is ambush and 12 opposition. Ambush opposition. I could also try to invert it to see if I get anything from there. So I got increase power. Yeah, increase power makes sense. Like, why do I recognize the ship? Because, why do we recognize the ship? Increase power. We can see that this ship, the ship is from the attaché of the admiral's fleet on Katoon, aiding the admiral's fleet will give us more bargaining power with our contractor as the job continues. Right? Redar knows that if he plays nice, if he makes sure that officers from the Admiral's fleet don't get shot out of the sky, that only increases his clout with the old Empire. So why not give them... He also has his visor on, right? He can probably record what's been happening, so he can probably show them tangible evidence. Although that... that does sort of, contradict our big drama with Danica originally. But, you know, we can also say that Danica is a master, you know, spy and saboteur, which is how she managed to work those angles on the Red Moon in the first place. So yeah, we know. Redar knows if he helps the Admiral's fleet, it only helps him. But I think that is everything we have to do for Destination 1. Or I should say, Exploration 1. Yes. Which means we can now head to... Use the exploration, roll 2 dice. If you get repeat events... Yeah, now we go to Destination. So we deal with the scout. I think we probably get back on our hover bike and we aim the exhaust, you know, the back of the jets right over the body, and we hit the pedal so hard that it just blows a bunch of gravel and moon dust on top of the corpse, just sort of like half buries him in gray sand and snow before, you know, shooting off back into the barren rocky crags of Katoon, and we try to find our next possible lead on our target. Whoa, Nar the Necromancer redeeming baddies get a reroll of the dice? Are you trying to kill me this early on in the game? Yeah, I guess I should mention that, you know, this is a level 1 adventuring TTRPG stream, which means you can use your channel points to help people roll, both me and the enemies. Nar says for Waldo to help him hide / not be found. Oh, hilarious. He says Waldo has +10 to all stealth checks in addition to his normal bonuses. Hilarious. Yes, so I'm going to write in audience rewards. So we got Nar gives a reroll to Waldo. I'm going to put that in bold, and I'm going to make that real big. All right, there we go. We got one for Waldo. But now it takes us into our destinations table. Roll on the destination table to find out where you arrive. You'll get a brief description of the destination, which you'll use with the list on the planet to create a named location. And then to use the destination events, roll twice. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is roll on the destination table. So I'm going to grab my dice. I'm going to roll my d6. I got a 5. You arrive at a bustling spaceport run by the challenging faction. Ooh. Okay. Which is good. The challenging faction is the old Empire. We like the old Empire. We're working with them. We just saved one of their patrol vessels. So that is good for us. It would have been a much hairier situation if the spaceport was controlled by the Corsairs. Because that is some gang activity that we do not want to be involved in. We can resolve both. Gain 1 notoriety. If it's 5 or higher, a hostile guard appears. Oh, we have to do both. Oh! Ooh, interesting. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my planet real quick. So we have the salvage yard, the fleet cargo storage, the mustering zone. Fleet cargo storage sounds like where we're at, because I imagine that if the old Empire was pushed out of Katoon forcibly by the Corsairs, that they probably don't have power over many of the larger spaceports, but they probably have ones that, you know, were used for ferrying cargo, and also individuals. Like, I imagine, right, this is a prison planet, they probably had some system that was sort of like a space elevator, right, to shunt the inmates into and out of the prison planet. So they probably still have control over those, since the prisoners probably don't want much to do with those anymore. But it probably they make for decent holding zones for the old empire. So we're going to say Destination 1. So this is an old empire cargo and personnel / prisoner elevator port. Nice. And this is called the... I think, what do they call it? The PV... Although I might want to change the name, because PVR and PRX sound too similar. So... I'm going to call it... I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to give it a proper name. We're going to go to Job 2. This is... It's going to be called Fulcrum Point. Because the Empire is all about, like, their gravity hammers. They're all about that. Like, they're also named after things like tools and implements, right? And like tool motions. So we're gonna say Fulcrum Point. So now we have to resolve both. The first thing we're gonna do is gain a notoriety, which is crazy because we almost have max notoriety and we've just started the adventure, which is gonna be either really good for us or really bad for us. So the notoriety, if it's 5 or higher, no hostile guard approaches, and then we have to roll twice on the destination table. So let's roll twice, and then we can see about why we've gained this notoriety. I'm gonna go 1, 2. So we got a 6, which is gonna be this table, and then 2. A ship is being quickly loaded with cargo by a ragtag crew. They're under heavy fire from 2 hostile guards. Ooh, okay, choose one. So this might be how we gain our notoriety. Oh, no, oh no. My elbow hit my keyboard and made me jump to some random page. This is what I wanted to see. Okay, so. Intervene and save the crew to lose 1 favor, but you may try to recruit the captain. What angered the faction in control of this destination? Open a loose crate to gain 1 favor. 1 hostile attacks you, assuming you're with the crew. What valuable items were they meant to guard? Okay. Intervene and save the crew to lose 1 favor. I don't have 1 favor to lose, so maybe it's worthwhile just to do that because I don't actually lose anything, and then I get to try to recruit the captain at the same time, right? Kind of a win-win. So we're gonna go to Fulcrum Point, and so this is how we're gonna gain our notoriety, because we just blow into town. And I imagine they're under heavy fire from 2 hostile guards. So hostile guards, they're probably from the opposing faction, which are the Corsairs, right? Which would make sense. Actually, yes. We could actually... Ooh, okay. So the freighter that we just saved from the orbital cannon escapes. We can track the trajectory of the freighter to its nearby landing zone, because we have to assume it needs to land somewhere after almost being attacked. It lands here, right? So obviously we want to follow in there because it's a point of contact for inhabitants on the planet. But also, like, we're working for the old empire, so it's kind of a relatively safe space for us to be. But then also the hostile guards could follow the trajectory of the freighter as well and stage an attack. So okay. I'm starting to see the story now. So yeah, we hoverbike our way. We've been following on our visor the sort of ether trail of the old Empire freighter, you know, from this point. And as we are, you know, gliding in towards town, we can see one of the old Empire guards. We'll say a pair of them, you know, begin to approach us from a fair distance away. They're both holding in their hands these sort of oversized clubs, which sort of waver with this sort of unseen gravitational force. You know, kind of like when you're staring at the horizon line of a street, like on hot pavement, where you can see the heat sort of shimmer up from the pavement itself. That's sort of warbling around their batons as a sort of gravity, like miniature gravity hammers. As their blood red armor, they walk up to us with those faceless visors, and you know the halt, state your business here at Fulcrum Point, you know. And Red Arkenth slowly raises his head. You know, his wide brim hat cutting a shadow across his visor. Now, I ain't much in the business of giving names, but I'm a nomad under good jurisdiction from your admiral to do work here on Katoon. And like the guards look at each other and look back towards Red Art. Please show identification for your nomad contract. And then like Red R begins to like reach down onto his arm pad to sort of pull up the data. Right, of course, formalities and whatnot. You Empire types love that. And start like beginning to beep beep beep. And as he's hitting those codes in the distance you hear, you know, another explosion, and you can hear yelling and blaster fire as from the distance. We can see what appears to be as they mentioned, a ragtag group of hostile guards beginning to leap over from some of the nearby moon rock, throwing grenades into the fray as they are trying to what appears to be scavenge some of these supply crates that the Empire are moving around the cargo bay. We managed to see a group of Empire soldiers get pinned down behind some of the cargo. We can probably see a pair of Corsairs. They hop up over the battlements with two heavy Vulcan cannons, sort of suppressing fire on top of the guards. And that's when Red R leaps into action, jumps off of the hoverbike. The various shreds of his mist cloak duster, you know, swirling in the air as he rolls behind some of the cargo nearby and whips his pistols up into his hands, back against the crates, and turns ahead over towards the guards who are trying to prime their rifles and find a moment to breathe to like get the guns over the top of the battlements. And Red R says, "You just follow my lead," and then you know, wheels across the top of the barricade and takes some shots. So that's how we're going to gain our notoriety. We're going to gain some clout with the old Empire by helping their crew stave off some of these scavengers. So here we go. I'm going to copy and paste this event here. Oh, I'm going to copy and paste this event. Already copy and pasted this event. I'm already 2 steps ahead. But we do have to roll. So the first things first, Red R is going to attack with his dual hand cannons. Now, the good thing about the hand cannons is that they are +4 at range, which we are at range, which really benefits us as opposed to our stun pistols. So I'm going to roll that d6. Ooh, the 4 puts a 4. Red R's got that 8. You know, I also just thought about this too. They don't even necessarily have to be Corsair guards. they could just be like a roving, escaped prison gang. That's what this whole planet is, right? Of course, a lot of Corsairs are mixed in with that, as well as the Targs, because they probably pledged themselves to the Corsairs after being freed by the space pirates. But this could be just like a roving gang of marauders who are just trying to steal and salvage their way through old Empire materials. Now we're going to roll for these pirates for the attack. They get a +2. So they're going to roll that. Ooh, they got a 4 as well, but they got a +2, which means they got the 6. Which we beat that. So intervene and save the crew to lose 1 favor. Doesn't matter, I don't have any favor. But you may try to recruit the captain. What angered the faction in control of this destination? Okay. So let's enemy crew 6. So we got a couple of things to resolve here. We may try to recruit, and then what angered the faction in control of this destination? Okay, so the first thing that happens is Redar says, "Follow my lead." He wheels up over the battlements, and with pinpoint precision, you can see there's like 4 shots. One shot is shoots the Vulcan cannon up into the air, right? And then the second shot is right through the heads of the space pirates. And then, boom, another Vulcan cannon up into the air. Boom, another one in the head. Just 4 shots, 2 down, which leaves the other soldiers enough time to get back their own rifles over the top of their cover and begin to spray at all of the other fighters, which were a little less equipped to handle the heavy stuff. And of course, with the heavy gunners down, the old Empire can push back against them. You can hear the laser fire getting further and further away as they push the spacers back into the wilds of Khatun as the guards approach the previous guards that were trying to verify Redar's credentials approach Redar once again. Redar spinning his guns back into his holsters as you can hear the clip-clopping boots of a well-to-do, high-ranking old Empire officer, now flanked with these 2 gate guards, going to speak to Redar. So you may try to recruit the captain. So we have to look at the recruitment section, because that's a special action that you can take. Okay. Assets are locals that have something valuable to offer you. When you successfully recruit, you may gain access to a single-use special ability. Yeah, see, you have to add your favor to rolls to recruit, and I currently have no favor, so I'm just going off of nothing but vibes to try and recruit this captain. Roll on the assets table, choosing one of the 2 options to determine who they are and the bonus they provide. So the first thing I want to see is we have a ship mechanic, pit crew thief, diplomatic, freelance pilot or rookie nomad, a guild contact, guild contact, or rich benefactor. Rich benefactor kind of makes sense or a diplomatic emissary makes sense for these 2. I'm gonna say 1 to 3 it's 3, and then 4 to 6 it's 4. All right, rich benefactor. Okay, so I am going to roll on speed. Sometimes the prompt may add half. All right. How do I know if I've succeeded, though? The usher arm system, once per game you may open it. That's what I get if I successfully recruit them, but this could be a bonus. Add half of your favor, rounded up. I have no favor, so this is just a straight roll. So I'm going to roll my die, which is a 2. Some of this may already be on your sheet. You may try and recruit them. Actions. I'm not seeing how I determine if I succeed. Asset. When prompted, I rolled a 2. Oh, all 4, here we go, and failure. If the result of the nomad die is higher than the challenge die, the reaction succeeds. Oh, so do I have to roll a challenge? And a different outcome based re-rolling die. I think I have to roll a challenge to overcome, and I only get half my favor rounded up to add to the... Yeah. Oh, also, if they're hostile, I think, man, I'm starting to remember things about this game. I think I'm actually able to threaten them if they're hostile instead of always attacking. Nice. Okay, I am remembering how this. Wow, it's been a while since I played Notorious, so now I'm remembering some of the mechanics. So I don't always have to murder them. It's just been that Redar has been doing a lot of murdering since landing on the prison planet, but I don't have to. Okay, so I think knowing that now, we're gonna go to the recruit. Let's see if we succeed. We're gonna go back down to... Oh, you know what I should do? I won't do it right now because I'll have to comb through some files. But I should have I should have 2 copies of this open, so I can use one as my events reference and one for my rules reference. I'll do that for next time. You may try to recruit the captain. Okay, so I got a 2. I gotta roll their die. Okay, so I do not succeed. What angered? So I do manage to defeat the guards, which I think might mean I gain a notoriety. I have to double check. But you may try to recruit the captain. I failed. What angered the faction in control of this destination? Okay. So I know exactly what happened. So I hear the click-clacking of well-to-do polished boots behind me. Redar Kent spins around on his own heels, his hover spurs, ching, ching, clinging into place. As we can see, what appears to be a well-dressed, old Empire affiliate. I imagine they, kind of looks like in Star Wars how the captains all have like the tight little pillbox, like black caps and like college uniforms, but it's red, and maybe a crimson cape, hanging at their backs. I imagine they're human, sort of nose pointed in the air, and I'm wondering here, they have a little gray to their hair. They've definitely earned their rank. You can see some of the badges and accolades pinned across their chest. Well, I do see that even in the farthest reaches of space, the vermin seem to find their way to me. And Redar sort of tilts his head to the side. You just call me a vermin? And like completely ignoring him, the Old Empire contact continues. I don't believe that we authorized your loosing of lethal force upon our grounds, did we, Nomad? And that's when, Redar Kent sort of sidles up on his hips for a second. Now, I don't know if you just saw the same thing I was seeing there, pal, but there's about a moment where a bunch of your little underlings are going to be riddled full of holes if it weren't for me and my 2 shooters. Alright, so I don't know where you get the business, and like the Old Empire guard just like raises his hand. I do have a great amount of business and authority when it comes to these matters. Fulcrum Point is my jurisdiction, and if there are to be engagements with hostile forces upon these grounds, they will be dealt with by the Empire that has claimed this sector. Unless, of course, you have already given your credentials and authorization to the gate guard, which he, turns his head, and the gate guards, look between each other. Shh. We have not had the credentials given to us at the time of... And then, he just cuts them off again. Exactly!
Now, while I do so appreciate your quick dispensal of force, I must ask that you keep your weapons holstered for the rest of your visit at Fulcrum Point until we have the proper time to intake you into our database, and then, and only then, after you have been given the proper rights, can you intercede on our behalf? Is that made clear?
And that's when, Redar is sort of gritting his teeth from behind his visor.
I already done took a contract with your admiral's name.
Nar says, waves hand, you do not require my credentials. Yeah, I didn't play that kind of nomad, unfortunately. The old Empire guard, raises hand once again.
Do I make myself clear? The Admiral has signed a contract. I speak for Fulcrum Point. I will speak to the Admiral on your behalf after your credentials have been authorized.
Yeah, of course.
Nothing but bureaucracy when it comes to you types, ain't it?
Sure enough, I will make sure not to save any more of your lives until you're able to intake my paperwork. And you can see, the captain does note the the sauciness of Redar, but Redar is here with some level of consent from the old Empire, and so doesn't want to ride him too hard.
I'm glad that we have an understanding. Now, is there anything else that we can help you with?
As he's going through, going through the data, which is now being transferred from Redar Kent's communicator to the old Empire.
Redar Kent
is sort of perusing the file.
Interesting. Quite a sum you've managed to have placed upon your head by the Red Moon Syndicate, is it?
And Redar sort of, you can feel his fingers flexing on his gun, which is in his holster.
I assure you that was a misunderstanding, which I am working to settle with the Red Moon. As of this very moment, I have levied many a complaint with the Guild. If you need any of those files about my innocence, you may please see my associate, Itsuki.
And then once again, the captain raises his hand.
Your dealings with those spice dealers do not interest me. What does interest me is that you apprehend this Waldo,
he says, taking a look at the file,
and recover what was taken from the Admiral. As long as that is done, I care not for what price those drug peddlers have placed upon your head.
Well, at least we can act friendly-wise on those grounds.
Indeed. I assume you might need some information on this target of yours, this Nukili.
If you got something to say on his behalf, his whereabouts, where he frequents, that sort of thing, it would help me cut down my hunting time. And, beep, 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 goes through his repertoire of information.
Unfortunately, scarce little is known about this Waldo. An incredibly hard-to-find man, that Waldo, can apparently blend into anywhere. You have your work cut out for you.
Yeah, it would appear so.
Well, unfortunately, I do not have much to offer you in the ways of apprehending this Quadroy criminal, but you are now given full rights to Fulcrum Point during the stay of your contract. If you need a place to stay, to rest, we can accommodate you for a reduced fee. Of course, you must pay your dues to the Great Red Hammer.
Of course, my dues, Great Red Hammer, all that whatnot.
Wonderful. If you need anything, simply ask for...
And I'm going to quickly give myself a name. I think I had a name here, yeah.
Tarl Narson. Captain Tarl Narson.
That name just rolls right off the tongue, don't it, Tarl? Redar gives a wink. So why were they mad at us? Nar says, impressive how he manages to blend into any environment despite his bright red and white attire. And those glasses. And that ridiculous hat. So they're obviously upset. So Tarl Narson, captain of Fulcrum Point. We do not conscript his help. I can't type. Conscript his help. But and was upset because we intervened in old Empire hostilities without proper authorization, but got over it, and is giving us some level of leeway. Leeway? I know how to spell that right. Leeway? No? Leeway? Oh, just a space? Okay. Some level of leeway during our stay on Khatun. Okay. So we lose one favor that we never had to lose in the first place. We still did not recruit, but we did choose our opponent's fate. We still get to gain 1 notoriety, which is very handy because now that we're at 5 notoriety, that's going to start changing the permutations of events that we have. And that might help us get to our leads and our targets a bit quicker. So that is actually really good news for us. Okay, hostile or lead. So now, is there anything else that I needed to resolve on my destinations? I don't think so. Oh, gosh. Actually, can I... File. Can I duplicate this? Oh, gorgeous. Okay, this is exactly what I want. Because I want one thing that is just looking at my rules and the other which is looking at my events. Okay, so. Choose one. Okay, so I think that resolves everything for this destination. So now we have to go back to the exploration. So unfortunately, Fulcrum Point did not yield us everything that we needed to find Waldo. Where is Waldo? But now we're back on the trail, which is the fun part anyway. So we have to roll 2 dice. Oh, 2 6s. Wow. One determines which of the 3 tables. Wait. Roll an exploration to be able to find out what happens as you travel. Oh, okay. Yeah, 6. Nothing eventful happens. Gain 1 motivation and roll 1 die. Motivation are good because those are our rerolls, so I'll gladly take another motivation. And roll a die. 4. What destruction do you see directly caused by a faction? Ooh, that's interesting. Let me go to my GM emulator, and I'm gonna roll 2 dice real quick. Bum bum. 48, we're gonna block inside. Oh, interesting. When I hear block inside, what destruction I see from a faction, block inside, What I hear that as, exploration 1, I see radar witnesses a group. Oh, I wanted to increase the text size there and didn't take. Radar witnesses a group of old Empire soldiers reclaiming and refortifying a prison watchtower that was previously destroyed and claimed by the Corsairs. Right? Because it's blocking the inside. So I imagine they're clearing out like Corsair refuge. They're like re-barricading it. There's like a series of impermanent like defense walls that are around the tower as they are repairing it, cleaning off the graffiti, tearing down the Corsair flags, raising the Empire hammer. Oh, excuse me. Northern Necromancer. Talking about a sneaky rogue who wore bright white but would magically blend into any environment. Ooh, psychic powers. That was the only character I've played where the campaign actually finished. Ugh, tell me about it. Those campaigns that never finish. Okay. So yeah, it's kind of an uneventful ride. But, you know, at this point, Redar has cleared his credentials with the Old Empire, so he gets a little blip on his, like, local radar of Empire activity. And as he wheels around in his other bike, speeding by, we can see one of the watchtowers, one of the monitoring stations that are being repaired and refortified by the Old Empire in their attempts to reclaim Katoon proper. So unfortunately, nothing that is going to bring us closer to Waldo. But okay. Something. What word am I trying to say? My brain, I'm like looking at different pages, my brain is shutting down. But something that shows the destruction and just the general actions of the various factions that are on Katoon. That's what we wanted to focus on. Okay, so that was my exploration. Because I don't get any events on that 6. Yeah, I would have. See, if I had rolled one of these notoriety ones, we would have encountered a lead. Nothing eventful happens, but we do gain 1 motivation. Okay, but now we are at our destination. Or we're about to be. Roll on the destination table to find out where you arrive. Okay. Let's roll that d6. We get a 1. You arrive in a remote outpost or garrison run by the Minor faction. Ooh, that's interesting. Because that is the Kadu gang. And they are spicers. Spice miners. Run by the Minor faction. So this is the Kadu gang. So a small outpost. So I'm gonna say the small outpost. This is called. I want to call it like Needles. I'm just gonna call it Needle Point. Needle Point Quarry. Because this is an excavation camp for a what do you call it? Like a planetary excavator or driller. Excavation camp, drill camp. I'm gonna say a mining camp. Excavation device. So yeah. This is the Kadu gang. The Kadu gang who are trying to dig and drill deeper into Katoon to try and see if there's any spice there. Because they obviously, like, when it was in control by the Old Empire, they couldn't mine there for spice because the Old Empire would never have it. Or at least never have it without getting their taste. But now that the Old Empire have been pushed out, and the Corsairs are in control, and the gangs, the Corsairs and the Targs probably have a much better relationship with the Red Moon, and the Kadu here on the rim, on the outskirts of space. Now they can like make some deals where it's like, oh yeah, you can drill here, you can dig here, you know, as long as we get our cut, you know. So Needlepoint Quarry. I'm actually gonna call it Needle Drop Quarry. Interesting. And we are not good friends with the Red Moon, so we are not that good of friends. We are not that good of friends with the Kadu either. Search for anyone who might know your target to gain 1 favor. Speak with a local here to gain 1 motivation. I want to search. I mean, we need to search. We need to search because we need to get a beat on our quarry. We are going to gain a favor. That's helpful. So why don't I take a look at my search action real quick? Searching. Some destinations will give you the option to search for someone connected to the target. If so, roll on the search table and follow the prompt. Okay. I got a 1. Asking questions about the target attracts a hostile. Which local doesn't take kindly to nomads harassing their staff? So obviously, the Khadoon, the Khadoon gang do not. They're probably gonna have a bead on me because I'm not friends with the Red Moon Syndicate. They probably are gonna try to collect the bounty on my head. Oy. Man, ever since Redar just dropped anchor on Khadoon, it's been nothing but blasters and explosions and bad stuff. Asking, okay, now if I'm not mistaken, if they have hearts, that means they have an additional health, right? I have to beat them twice. I'm gonna double check that. Attack. Your equipment and assets may provide defense. Your opponent may also have 1 or more points of defense. Each point of defense. What was that sense? Each point of defense allows a successful attack to be blocked once, avoiding the consequences of failure. Yes, that is what I thought. Rather unfortunately. So which local doesn't take kindly to nomads harassing their staff? Let's find out. I rolled a 1, which on this planet means a Beznik. This is like very, very triumphant music for getting into a fight with a hostile. Ooh, we got she, a Beznik Femme Beznik. Which also could be a name, Femme Beznik. Okay. And so I'm looking for, I keep opening up my tabs because I'm trying to find, this is what I'm trying to find. Okay. So, who does not take kindly? We have a Femme Beznik by the name of, I think I should have names for all of the, let's find out. We have, where do we have those? Lineages, species, there we go. Beznik. These are great names. Ogzut. Femme Beznik. Ogzut. So she's an orbital miner. an orbital spice miner. What is like her? What is something that's unique about her? I'm gonna roll 2d20. We got a 20 and a 16. Ooh, I'm gonna roll again. A 5. She's got abnormally clean clothes for a spice miner and extravagant hair. Okay. 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 So what I'm seeing is that if she's got like abnormally clean clothes, that maybe she's not a spice miner, but she's like the spice mining boss. You know, like she's the one who's like in the office coordinating the affairs, while everyone else is getting their hands dirty. She's obviously like, I imagine her being like really burly and like strong armed, but like a bit rotund, like a gut. And you can see like, it's like kind of poking out of her like extremely well put together, like impressed clothes. But like, you know, she kind of gives me like Tony Soprano vibes, where she's like kind of like well dressed and like put together, but there's just something about her that just exudes like, oh, you make me uncomfy. Like you make me so uncomfy. Okay, and then so she's got what? Oh, and she's got clean clothes and an extravagant hairstyle. When I hear extravagant hairstyle for like spice miners, maybe like Liberty Spikes or like a mohawk. I'm thinking of like who was the warthog guy from Ninja Turtles? Was it? I know they were Bebop and Rocksteady, but I can't remember which one was Bebop and which one was Rocksteady. I'm imagining that's the kind of vibe for like the hair, like a dyed mohawk, but like clean pressed, like, you know, dressing above her station. She thinks she's hot shit. She's like the office lead on a drug mining outpost, and she thinks she's, you know, that the roses really smell like boo boo boo, you know? Okay, so we got that. I like how I told myself, I was like, oh yeah, I'll use one for my rules and one for my not rules, and then I just mixed them up almost immediately. That is called pro play. That is called pro strats. Everyone out there watching from home, that's how you do it. Alright, so she has +1 attack and she has +1 defense. Which local doesn't take kindly to nomads harassing their staff? Oh, yeah, I know. Ogzut. Okay, so she's got +1 attack and +1 defense. Okay. So we see the spice mining operation, and we know that it is Kadu Gang run, and that isn't great for us. We do have some run-ins with the Red Moons, but the Kadu aren't exactly the Red Moons, right? They're a subsidiary. There is a level of separation there which affords us some possible distance of notoriety, right, of safety. And as we are, as we're speeding through Katoon, I think we can see from a certain distance this sort of like elevated, I imagine it kind of does look like almost like a microscope that is being held aloft by these mechanical arms, which is like ambiently drawing in light and energy like from above and like pulling it into this sort of this filtration point at the head of this orbital laser, which is like slowly but surely spiraling and like pinpointing a crevice in the crust of Katoon and breaking further and further and deeper downward. And you can see it's sort of like slowly carving out this pit, this like the shelved quarry, which Kadu Gang members are using. I imagine like There's some sort of like anti-gravity well technology too, which is like slowly lifting up the rocks out of the bottom of the pit, which are then being scooped out by Cadu gangers. And then they probably have like levitation and jump packs that like help them like float down safely to the bottom and then jump back up when they need to like go to different tunnels and different shelves, different like depths of the cave. Ooh, I'm gonna write that down. Cadu gang. That's kind of cool for their tech. So they have like hover packs / jump jets that allow them to quickly traverse the orbital quarry. Yeah, that's interesting. I like the sound of that. And so we try to avoid it. I think initially we do try to avoid it, but it's one of the situations where like there's not a lot of unregistered activity happening on Katoon, and just seeing a high-speed vehicle within the vicinity of the Spice Gang area, like there's probably like a little like radio signal that like comes up on our visor that's like pinged to us, and like, you know, we let the signal through, and you can hear like state your name and business on Katoon, and you know, Red Arkenth has to think of something kind of quick, because he is a nomad, but he knows that the Red Moon have it out for him. The Cadu are a part of that affiliate. So I think just shooting off the cuff, Redar probably says something akin to independent contractor here, just making sure that all orbital quarries are within a sufficient distance from one another for protecting the fault lines of Katoon and surface integrity, level 5 catastrophic event, and just sort of like starting to like say random words that he knows are relevant to like the spice mining trade. And then you can hear like the radio blipping again. I didn't hear any news of any contractors nearby. What's your badge number? And then Red Arkenth is like, well, it starts with a 1. It starts with a 1. It starts, there's more numbers. Then you can hear like the beeping again. I'm gonna have to ask you to come closer, come over to Needle Drop. We're gonna have to authorize this. And Red Arkenth like hangs his head. No. Stars above. Alright, I'll be heading your way soon. Have the welcome wagon ready. Because the last thing he wants is to rouse more suspicion from the Cadu gang or the Red Moon. So he is going to wheel his way over towards Needle Drop Quarry to see if he can sweet talk his way out of being accosted by the Cadu gang. So he comes up to the front. We can see that the quarry is being manned by a team of... Sorry, I just want to adjust my headphone volume a little bit. A team of Cadu gangers. Some of them use their jump packs to, land at the front of their station with Ogzut marching out in front. Now, Ogzut, once again, is giving me big Tony Soprano vibes. So I imagine like she walks out with like a tool in her hand. It's probably like a handheld. Like in the future, it's probably not like a pick. It's probably like a pneumatic, like, sort of like jackhammer sort of situation with like a superheated point, to like melt and chop through stone, like a handheld device. But she just so happens to have it, with her when she walks out. So, independent contractor that begins with 1, huh? Yeah, about that. You didn't give me a full chance to, explain myself. I'm here on the business of of a certain emissary of mine, a Waldo, and like begins like talking, and as he's talking, you can like see some of the Kadu gangers like whispering behind each other. I think there's sort of this. I think there's this idea I'm going to plant right now that maybe the Kadu gang is really close to a big score of spice in this quarry. That music a bit ago had the emotional intensity of something like Interstellar. I know, I was like, all right, let's go. Let's have Og Zut have this emotional breakdown over her spice office. I think that perhaps it isn't even that he's asking questions yet or anything like that. It's just that they're so close to a big score of spice and they know it. And anyone who is saying anything reminiscent of not exactly correct is going to ping as someone who is such a threat to their operation or like a mole that they like need to be dealt with, right? And so so Og Zut like waltzes out and is like hammering the device in her hand. Well, Authenticator something 1. I'm afraid that you aren't going to have the opportunity to report back to those uppers of yours. And Red Arkenth is like slowly leaning back on his heels for a second. You can underneath his duster, one hand maybe leisurely reclining towards the pistol, just priming himself, but he doesn't draw yet. And what makes you say that? You got some bad reception out here?
Let's just say you're in for a bad reception.
And then there's like one big jump, boom, as the jump jets click into place as she raises that hammer above her head, as she's gonna try and make sure no one finds out about this. Oh, wait. But I might be able to actually sweet talk her down. We just talked about how if I attract hostile attention, I can maybe threaten them. So before that happens, before I speak too quickly, you may try to threaten any hostiles you meet with to warn them off without resorting to violence. I add half my notoriety, rounded up, which is not great. Roll on the threat neutralized. You're not as scary as you thought you were. Okay, so it's gonna start in a fight if I fail anyway, so there's really no reason to not try and talk this through. So, I'm going to roll my d6. 3, I add half of my notoriety, which is 1, so round it up. I think it's just 4. Right? And then we roll Og Zut. Ooh, it's a match. What happens? I guess meat breaks, right? I would assume. Does it say success and failure? If the result of the nomad is higher, no, otherwise it fails. So I have to beat it. How many? I have a 3. The chance that I roll higher than that is like 50. Ugh, but that would just be a waste of a motivation if I fail, right? I feel like it's almost worth. Redar choosing diplomacy. Who are you and what have you done with our bloodthirsty bounty hunter? Listen, he's just got bad blood with like 3 different space organizations. He doesn't want to keep murdering people. It just keeps kind of happening that way. Okay. I think it's almost worth just taking the fight, and then using the motivation to help me win the fight instead. So yeah, basically, He tries to talk his way out of it with this fake authenticator nonsense. She calls him on his bluff, or just does not want him to get any closer to their spice score, and says,
I'm gonna have to send you home, either in pieces or in a bag.
Jump. And the jump pack kicks on. She raises that pneumatic piston overhead and is trying to bring it down on Redar. So, okay. First things first. We have to shoot. Now, because we lost our diplomacy roll, she is going to get a +1 to her first challenge, right? So her first one is going to be at a +2 attack. But we have I'm gonna say that we can do a ranged attack first because she's jumping into the air to build some attack on us, some momentum. So I'm gonna roll that d6. Oof, okay. So I roll a +4 with my blaster, so that is a 6 total. Then she's gonna roll a 4. Okay. So see, this might be a situation where I use a motivation. Because Ogzut, if she's got a 4 plus a 2 equals a 6, and I rolled a 2, it's much higher chance that I'm going to get above that 2 and put myself at least 1 point over to get this first win. So I'm going to burn a motivation. I'm going to roll this die. Yep, see, that's all I needed. Math, baby. Math. So she jumps up into the air, has that tool above her head. It's like boiling hot. The pneumatic piston starting to like build up motivation. Redar jumps backward, flips out his pistols, begins shooting up into the sky. You can see that Ogzut like takes a few in the arm, burning holes in like that pristine uniform of hers. But she's got that like girth, that gut, that alien strength, and manages to push past it, right? But not without, you know, staggering her a bit. So I leap backward. Redar leaps backward. She brings the piston down into the stone right where I was. And the piston slams down. There's a crater, you know, that gets burned into the earth, just singeing the edges of Redar's cloak as he leaps backward. But as we land in our position, you can see that she's beginning to... well, I can't say leak viscous fluid because it's like they're lasers, right? They burn. But you can see that the blaster shots that we put in her were deep, and they are smoldering, and they look like they have definitely slowed her down. And she's like, "You bastard! What did I tell you? Stay out of this!" And like begins to rush forward with her hammer again. So she does have 1 point of defense, which means she's still alive for this time. 0 defense left. I'm gonna say I leapt back. She's running at me, right? So I think this still gives me enough time to use my pistols, right? I think if she wins this one, that makes it pretty clear that she's managed to get the drop on me and get into melee range. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna shoot once. Oof, okay. So that's 3 plus 3 is 6. Pretty mid on that dice roll. Then she gets her 1 attack. But 1 plus 1 is only 2, my friend Ogzut. So, oh, but I also get to choose to spare her. Ooh, right, because she's a hostile. So this might be useful because sparing her means I get a favor, which means talking in the future to other characters will be at a benefit, will be at a bonus. So that actually might be worthwhile to do. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the favor. Okay, so the hostiles start a fight with you. Resolve the attack action. Add 1 to the challenge on the first roll. Okay, I defeated her. And that was my search. Okay. And so now I'm going to go to my attack action. I'm going to go to my attack action. I'm going to go to my attack action just to verify that I can successfully do the threat neutralized, or spare, I should say, on the attack. Hostile or lead, yeah. Spare, I gain 1 favor. Yeah, so I think like as she's rushing me, Red R just like spins his pistol up in the air, and like shoots like her hand, ping, and like knocks it backward, then shoots the piston out of her other hand, and then like shoots at like her legs, which drops her, and then finally like spins his gun and like and takes 2 final shots at like the pipes of the hover pack, which are like jutting out on either side of her gut, right? And then busts out the sort of thrusters there. So just wings her, takes out the legs from out underneath her, and then shuts down her propulsion systems. And then like flips his guns until they're like both pointed at her. And like she raises her hands up in the air. And the other spicers who are around her, who like I imagine like would have gotten in on the fight, but like A, probably know better than to get in Ogzut's way, and B, they might all be kind of like strung out on spice, so they're like a little slow on the uptake, and everything kind of broke out a little bit too quickly for them. Like they see Ogzut like raise her hands, and they all sort of look at each other sort of confused, like, oh, what are we doing, Ogzut? And then, you know, you hear, get your hands in the sky, you worms! And they all like, they raise their hands. Nar says, just a little attacky action, not a big deal, just an attack. And then Red R says, now I didn't have to keep your skull all together. You understand that now. You're going to send me out in pieces. I could have done the same to you. But you got a lot less holes than I was fixing to put in you a moment ago. I can change, but if you talk to me nice, you work with me, I'll let you stay whole. How about that? And like Ogzut sort of grumbles under her breath. Well, I don't have much to say about it now. Right. You're smarter than you look. And like spins his pistol back into the holsters. So if we were trying to search, now that is interesting. Do we get anything for the sparing? Some destination give the option to search someone connected to the target. If so, roll on the search table below and follow the prompt. Asking questions about your targets attracts hostile attention. Which local doesn't take kindly? Okay, so we know that she didn't like us being near the... Ooh, that would be interesting. If maybe Waldo likes a taste of the spice every now and again, right? And so, now listen, I don't think we were properly introduced. Name's Red R. Kemph. And then, Ogzut sort of snorts. Don't you mean authenticator? No, I mean Red R. Kemph. Now, I'm here on some official business. I ain't interested in your rocks and your spice. Y'all can have that as far as I'm concerned. I'm here with one name on my lips, and that is Waldo New Keeley. Now, you fixin' to tell me more about him? Or should I just be on my merry way? And then you can see Og sort of like looks astride from, some of her constituents. I don't know nothing about. And then like probably one of the other like strung out spicers are like, wait a second. Yeah, Waldo. He comes by every, couple of cycles to... And then, just... Ogzut shoots him the most murderous glare. I said shut your trapper. No. Now, see, we're getting somewhere. Why don't you keep your lips flapping for me, friend? And that's when the spicer... We don't have any official information in sort of game terms of what we can learn, but... I think just for the narrative of the story, the Spicer says, yeah, every couple of cycles comes in along a few clicks west. It picks up enough to last them about a cycle and a half. Just sort of like gives us enough information where we can maybe start triangulating a path, or at least a whereabout from previous dealings, which is all that Redar needs to build the next leg of his case. And so, with 0 defenses left, Ogzut's been neutralized at Needle Drop. I think that's all we can do here. We spared her, we gained our favor. Yeah. Redar listens to the Spicer talk much to Ogzut's chagrin and records everything into his data pack. And then eventually looks back up to Ogzut. Well, I can't say that y'all run a very tight ship around here, but at least you got very trustworthy individuals on staff. Very helpful. Tips his hat at the other Spicer, and the Spicer smiles and waves kind of glassy-eyed, thanks. Not really realizing that he's given up the goat with his boss and is probably gonna get in a lot of trouble. Just kind of happy to be complimented, just to be a part of it. I ain't here to cause you any more trouble. You happy digging and all that. Maybe I'll see you around, dog. Maybe I won't. Either way, be sparing my eyes. Have yourself a wonderful day. And then Ogzut, cursing to herself under her breath for the ineptitude of her of her team, wheels back around, has some of her team lift her up onto her haunches, and starts barking to get med packs and med gel and someone to get her a new hover pack as Redar jumps onto his hover bike and wheels away back into the exploration phase. So, exploration 3. We gotta go. We gotta go to the exploration. We are gonna head to here. First, oh man, we might get a lead. 5. If your notoriety is 3 or higher, encounter a lead. Finally, okay, our first lead. This is big. That was for exploration, yeah? Nice. Okay, so leads have their own special rules. So we need to pay attention to those. But this is big, because this is getting us one step closer to Waldo. Leads. Oh, I forgot. This dang PDF does not want to be my friend. Leads. Before you can finish the job, you'll need to find a few leads, known associates of the target. Leads may provide clues about the target's goals and offer an opinion on their actions, or they may simply be another person in the way. As soon as your notoriety hits 3 or more, you may be prompted to create a lead when you explore. To create a lead, first roll for a showdown to establish the location where you encounter them in the wilderness. For the first and second leads, roll on the species, personality, and then the leads table. So wait, we need to roll a showdown. There we go. Roll for a showdown. Before you create a lead or a target, roll once on each of these site and setting tables to determine where you encounter them. Perfect. All right, so we got 6 and a 3 and 3. We got, you find each other in the middle of a large crowd where it's difficult to get a clear shot. Large crowd. Difficult to get clear shot. Actually, yeah, this is probably the information that we got from the Spicer, right? We don't know where Waldo is, but we know he has a friend around here. Maybe you should talk to him. That's probably exactly what happened. And Red Arcanth was like, oh, you just keep talking. You disturb a huge beast that was lying dormant somewhere nearby, and it relentlessly pursues you both, often appearing out of nowhere. Oh, boy. That's fun. A large crowd with a beast that is following us out of nowhere. I also wonder... Let me see if I can find... Try to see if I can find like a decent song to keep on like repeat while we're like fighting, you know? Well, I guess we don't know if we're fighting yet. We could just be talking to this target, this lead, I should say. Okay. This one has kind of like a... It's called Try to Catch Me. So perfect for trying to catch down a lead, right? We'll use this one for now as we generate our information. So we have our setting and our site. So we're in the middle of a crowd, and it's difficult to get a clear shot. Oh, okay. I'm starting to get a scene in my head, but I also want to make sure I do the rest of the generation for the lead. Roll on the species and personality table. Okay. Oh, but we should roll it for... Should we roll it for... Should we roll it for the planet? Or should we roll it for every species? I'm gonna say we'll roll it for the planet, since I think that's how it's intended to work. So the planet, a brack. Okay, they're rock folk. So we have brack, and their personality is grim, melancholy, and irritable. Grim, melancholy, irritable. Okay. What tragic event did they recently witness, or what precious memento do they carry to honor a fallen friend? We'll come back to that, because I think it actually might be worthwhile to know what kind of lead they are to know exactly what's happening here. So we got 3 again. They're a construction crew who recently employed your target. Roll for their faction. Ooh, controlling or challenging. Okay. 3. They're the controlling faction, so these are the Corsairs. Interesting. A construction crew, a Corsair pirate, construction crew, recently hired Waldo. Huh. Okay. And then... Oh no, I'm sorry. Controlling, they're the challenging. So the challenging... They're not the Corsair Pirates. They are the Old Empire. Interesting. Interesting, because the Old Empire is the one who put the hit out on Waldo. Why was your target looking for work? And what job were they hired to do? Speak with their boss, who's wearing a different colored helmet. Okay. Okay. Why was your target looking for work? Okay, so let's go back one thing. What tragic event did they recently witness, or what precious memento do they carry to honor a fallen friend? I'm gonna roll on the GM emulator table to see if I get any ideas inspired within me to see. We got 84 and 27. 84 is care, and 27 is project. Care about a project. Okay, So this is, what tragic event did they receive? What precious memento? Care about a project, precious memento. That kind of clicks in my mind. So, precious memento. They're a construction crew. Interesting. They are a construction crew that hired Waldo. And Waldo stole deep space radar technology. The precious memento that this Brack individual is going to carry. They have the Imperial dog tags of a I'm gonna say Brack are like rock folks, so maybe they aren't born traditionally, but maybe they like hatch out of like stone clusters. So I'm gonna call them born out of a clutch mate, clutch, pod, friend. What would be like a equivalent to that? A clutch. Actually, what is a synonym for sibling or friend? A clutch. A kindred. A clutch kindred. Yeah. The Imperial dog tags of a clutch kindred who perished in a starship wreckage above Katoon. Nar says maybe they wanted Waldo's cloaking technology. I mean, the man can't be found. It is a very valuable skill set. But I kind of like the idea that, like, you know, they wanted this deep space radar technology, and they originally like, oh yeah, it's gonna help us find like enemies and stuff. But like, they're a construction crew, which means they're like rummaging through things. Maybe they're trying to use this radar because they're trying to find something. They're trying to find a particular long distance wreckage that, like, there's a mystery there, right? Like, the Empire didn't give us the full story. Like, there is something that is hidden in deep space that the Empire wants, and they need the radar to do it. Right? But Waldo stole it. Why? Is it because he's just trying to get in on it for himself? Like he's trying to get his cut? Or is there something about this thing that the Empire's trying to find that he doesn't want them to find? Is this like secretly a more heroic mission than we gave Waldo credit for? Do you know what I mean? I think there's a thread there that's very interesting. Okay. So, precious memento. The Imperial dog tags of a clutch kindred who perished in a starship. Oh, we don't know this thing's name yet. Oh, they even have names for... Oh, wow. They have names for the old species too, I think. That's cool. Okay. So this is Nzora. Nzora. Personality grim, melancholy, irritable. Yeah. So like, why was what was this? what was this space station wreckage? Yeah, the perished in space station wreckage above Katoon. What was the value of this space station? Why is the radar so important to help find it? What is the Empire hiding? Right? Okay. So this is an old Empire construction crew who previously hired Waldo. Why was your target looking for work, and what job were they hired to do? Now that is also a really interesting question, which I feel like the GM emulator can help us answer. So what job were they previously hired to do? 3894. 38 is inform 94 of the elements. Inform the elements. Or was it expectations dispute? Inform the elements. That kind of sounds like to me, what was Waldo hired for? Inform elements. So it kind of sounds like maybe he was hired to use the radar to help map movements in deep space. You know, question mark. For what? For what? Meteors? Other phenomenon? Spaceships? We don't know. It seems kind of vague right now. And then what was the other thing? It was, why are they looking for work? Why was your turn, and what job were they hired to do? Yeah, I think that was it. To use the radar to help, so they were, okay. So now, speak to their boss, who's wearing a different colored helmet. So that's obviously Nzora. So yeah, I think what happens is, we see a quarry. We are given the name from this Spicer over at Needlepoint. We are given the name of Nzora, who is a previous task boss that Waldo had while holding down a gig on Katoon, right? We trace that name back to this, I want to say, yeah, they're a construction crew, but it's more like deep space salvage. It's like Imperial reclamations, right? It's like Imperial technology reclamations and that's another reason why they're here on Katoon, is because of the great deal of Imperial technology which has been lost either to combating the prisoners and all the star systems around it with the Corsairs, with the space piracy, right? So I do have to remember this. So it's a large crowd and you disturb a large beast. So we're going to have to remember that in a second. But we head over to the Reclamation Center. And it is a large group of Brack. The way that I imagine the Brack is that they kind of look like they are mostly rock, but if you look like deep into the cracks of the stone growth along their body, you do see like this leathery connective tissue, right? Like it's almost like the rock is like a shell that's grown over them over periods of time, but there's no like uniform biology to them. Like they all are vaguely humanoid, but like some of them, you know, have like no discernible shoulders or heads, and like their eyes sort of just grow in their chest or along their stomach, and the eyes are just like these like beady, glassy, you know, little orbs that like sprout out of the leather between these stones. And they don't really have any discernible mouths, like that. Like you can just see like their their rock-like growths like vibrate and shake, and like probably like dust like puffs out of them, but from that shuddering, grinding motion of their bodies, like they create sound, like they create their vocalizations, right? So there is something kind of vaguely organic about them, but they are primarily like an alien sort of constructed being. So I don't think they're actually wearing a helmet so much as they may be wearing a different colored like sash, you know, which the Nzora has the dog tag, the Imperial tag of a clutch kindred strapped, you know, adhered, pinned to the sash. So we get the name Nzora from the Spicer, someone who was in close contact with Waldo previously, who had them on hire. But it is, you know, a large crowded place. There's that all around. There are other Brack who are sorting through metal, who are scanning plots of land, trying to unearth hidden metallic formations. You can also see some Brack who are like on break, but like a break for a Brack is like a nap where they like sort of fold in on themselves and they just look like boulders and they like clutch together really close, you know, in like a big stone kind of like pod. So it's like a swath of activity with like an inkling of like different collections of Brack who were like huddled together and like resting. And there's also like some excavation happening. But we managed to spot Nzora. We walk over, and we quickly, I think Nzora like turns. I'm kind of getting like Eeyore vibes from Nzora, and it's like, state your business here on Katoon. And you know, we break for Brack, Kit Kat, tit for tat, says Nar. I know, when I said break for Brack, I was like, that's a tongue twister. Break for Brack. That's when, we might be able to see if I can play. Now this music is like too vibin' for for this moment, but I don't feel like toying with it too much. Maybe we can say this one? Yeah. A little more vibe. A little more exploratory. State your business here on Katoon. And, you know, we hit our risk communicator, we pull up our credentials. My name is Red Arkenth. I'm here on contract with the Admiral's fleet of your prestigious organization. Your imperial hierarchy has allowed me the gracious honor of pulling in one certain Waldo Nukili. I have it on good authority that you may have crossed paths with him. Prospector Nzora. Indeed, Waldo and I were acquaintances. You know, sort of like swaying like ever so gently in the air, this like rocky body. And you know, I think that Red R's starting to get the idea that he's going to be here for a while. He's got to mentally prepare himself for strapping in. That's good to know. Well, we're just trying to understand where Waldo might be. Now, understand, I ain't here to hurt the boy. He's got something that's mighty precious to the Empire. I'm just trying to make sure it falls into the right hands. I assure you, no harm will come to him if y'all are close. But I can't guarantee his safety if other nomads come a roaming for him. You understand? They might not be willing to parlay without bullets and blasters, if you catch my drift. I'm here offering a route to safety. If you can help me hand it to him, I'd mighty appreciate it. And Zora sways silently, wordlessly for a moment. You hear the body like shuddering and gyrating inside, whatever organs or lack thereof sort of rustle up within his like massive rocky form. Waldo always seemed to get himself in trouble, even though he was well good at avoiding consequences, at least until now. You see, he was very bright. He powered many of our projects when it came to deep space categorization. He's like, categorization? Using radar, signals, mapping, star points to find the unfindable. Oh, alright, well. Nar says, sort of reminds me of the Elcor from Mass Effect. That's also a very apt, I think, descriptor of the Brack in my mind, for sure. Alright, so this Waldo, good at finding things, not so good at being found. That's useful, I suppose. Waldar, if you will. Oh, dang. I'm looking at 3 here now, too. 2 workers attack you in melee with heavy tools. If you defeat them, their boss pulls out a mining laser and attacks at range. So... Ooh. Oh. My baby's saying hi. Hi, baby. Hi, baby Piper. How's your day going? So yeah, we know if we read that part 3 of the lead that there is going to be a bit of a scuffle here with Zora. So I think, we're talking to Nzora. We're saying, he's good at finding things, not good at being found. You got anything else on him? And, the boss is, nodding his head sagely. You said your name was... Redar Kinth. And, you can see, 2 little eyelets on either side of his body sort of, gesture to 2 different directions. Almost like a chameleon can look in either direction. And there are 2 other... Brack who are catching that site and beginning to pull something up on a data pad. They're running Redar's name, and not only are they seeing that Redar does have a contract out for Waldo, but he also has a pretty high lethality rate. And so it's interesting that if the challenging faction wants to attack Redar for asking questions, that means that they don't want Waldo being found, right? So there is a conspiracy here that's happening. The construction crew is trying to protect Waldo from being found by the Empire, even though they are employed by the Empire. There's a conspiracy going on here. So I think now that they've confirmed that Redar is a nomad on the case, I think at this point, the wheels start turning in Nzora's mind, and he nods his head. I can bring you to Waldo's last location, where he bunks with us in times of rest. He does not pod together like the other clutch kindred. He is not of the Brack. And then Redar says, alright, well, yeah, if you got a place where he breaks bed and breaks bread, I'm sure we can use it to help me figure out his whereabouts. Mighty kind of you, lead the way. And I think that's when he and 2 other workers begin to walk him to a cave, right? Because I'm also looking at this thing right here. You disturb a huge beast that was lying dormant somewhere nearby. Because I think they're going to lead him to a cave, which they say is where Waldo rests. But it's secretly the hovel for some sort of natural predator here on Katoon. That they're going to try to use as an easy mark to get rid of Redar, right? So, oh gosh. So what happens here? First of all, what kind of creature would live here? Give me some ideas for an alien monster that lives in a cold, desolate, moon-like planet that what's the word? Hibernates in a cave and burrows in tunnels. Because I think we've described this landscape as pretty rocky. Trying to see. Okay. I'm getting an idea. Oh, where's my... Almost lost chat for a second there. So it leads us to a cave, and we're getting like further and further away from the habitable area of the salvage yards, right? And Redar is starting to get suspicious, but, you know, he doesn't quite know how this place operates, and Zora seems trustworthy enough, so there's no reason not to, you know, follow suit. He is old Empire. He's hired by the Empire. They ran his credentials. They have to know that he's on the up and up. And that is when we're at, like, the gaping maw. Breaking bread with Brack breaks into a brawl, says Nar. You can't keep doing it. You can't keep getting away with all this alliteration. I won't stand for it, Nar. And so, you know, they're like, it's the three of them. They're looking into the darkness with Redar. And Redar's like, look, there's no cots, there's no sleeping pods, there's no bunks, there's no anything. And, you know, Redar says, this is where, he's starting to get a little suspicious. So this is where old Waldo lays his head down to rest. Would be kind of hard without a mattress or not even a cot to his name. And then Zora like looks to, you know, his two compatriots. I am sorry, Redar Kenth. You seem a noble, hard-working spirit, much like the Brack. But this must be the last that you ask of Waldo Nukili. And like reaches down and like onto his like sash and produces like a tiny little sort of like metal orb, and he like throws it toward Redar. And Redar at first like ducks and covers like and like leaps towards like a nearby rock as if he's trying to protect himself from a grenade blast. But there's no blast. It like hits the ground and it's like quiet for a moment. And then there's sort of like a pulse that echoes out from this little metallic sphere. So like, and you know, it pushes the dirt and the dust aside. It makes like ripples in the moonstone sand, and you can hear it reverberating down the caves. And like Redar like pokes his head out from underneath the rocks and like, you know, snickers to himself underneath his visor, and is like, I'm sorry to say, whatever you just tried killing me with, Seems faulty. Got yourself a dud right there. And then Nzora, can't smile, doesn't have the facial construction for it, but there is sort of like a sad grin, that you can almost feel in his presence as his eyes train themselves on the caves behind Redar, and says, "No, Redar Kenf, I assure you, it has worked quite as intended." As you begin to hear, like, deep behind Redar, like a skittering and a screeching and like a rush of sudden movement coming closer and closer towards the mouth of the cave. Nar says, I don't know if this ever came up, but I love the idea that Waldo might have many body double lookalikes out in the galaxy to throw any would-be Waldo finders off his trail. In the first adventure that we had, if I'm not mistaken, we actually rolled that one of the leads was a decoy, some sort of decoy for the original target. It eventually, because we rolled differently moving forward, we eventually found out that decoy was actually another part of a ruse set up by Danica to murder us. But I think that there's a very real possibility that Waldo could roll to have like some, elaborate cloning or stand-ins. So I think Redar's eyes like widen in fear as he realizes what's happened. As I don't imagine that it's like a single beast, right? But it is like a swarm of these almost bat-like creatures. They're tiny. They have like these leathery bodies, these like leathery wings, but like the ends almost end in these like mantis-like claws. And they probably have like these multi-hinged, fanged mouths. There's some cross between like a bat and like a spider, multi-legs that has leather in between them that like flap, that have like these barbed ends of their appendages. And obviously these things eat meat, which is why the Brack are very unfazed by the swarm being summoned to the front of the cave, but while Redar may have to be relentlessly pursued while fighting his attackers. So you can see Redar, oh shit, as like these things screech and like swarm out like a big funnel towards the front of the cave, as the two workers, who each swing out with their own heavy tools. We can say they're salvaging, so maybe they're like, they're kind of like powered claws, like they're like, remember like those old toys you used to use that would like extend your reach and like grab onto things? It's kind of like that, but like functional. It's kind of like a claw that is used to actually lift beyond your normal weight and height when maneuvering large materials and metals. But they each produce those as... Oh, interesting. Because you defeat the two workers first, and then the boss pulls out the mining laser. So maybe Nzora doesn't throw the ball. Maybe he hoists it above his head and triggers it, right? So it gives him a reason to not attack immediately. He's using the orb to try and summon the ire of this swarm, right? Yeah, I think that's better. While his cronies do his dirty work. So we have two Brack workers. They each attack at +1. Okay. Nar says grabby hands. Exactly. Grabby hands. Okay. So, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Oh, and I should mark. We did. I think there's a place to mark leads. Am I right? Asset leads encountered 1. Yes. Okay. 2 Brack workers. Redar immediately wheels around and lets off some wild shots towards the workers who, like, he's behind the rock, and, like, they can actually stand at distance and, like, push on the claw as it, like, reaches out and, like, you know, like, tries to, like, grab him and like, squeeze him from behind behind the rock. Nar says, don't get too grabby with them hands unless they're into it. Redar's not into these hands. He wants these hands away. They are big, they are metal, they are scary, they are trying to crunch him good. Yeah, I think that's like, Redar is like, oh my god. Has anyone ever, oh my god. I'm having such a visceral memory from my childhood. Dude, does anybody remember Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater? When Ocelot, young Ocelot, would do that absolutely insane thing where he would, like, fight swarms of bees by spinning his pistols. That is exactly what is happening here. Except Redar has, like, lightning stunners imbued into the bottom of his pistols. So, like, at least it's a little more believable. Like, he's spinning his pistols and there's, like, electricity, and maybe he'll, like, slam the pistols together to, like, create, like, a shockwave to try and, like, scare the swarm away. But just imagine that absolutely unhinged scene where Revolver Ocelot, like, pistol whips swarms of bees away, but, like, cooler. But as Redar is doing that, like, zoom, 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 he's also trying to, like, take shots at the clawed hands that are trying to pull him out from behind the rocks and hold him down so the swarm can just tear him apart, right? And the whole time the swarm is, like, the ones he's not batting away are, like, scratching and tearing into his leathers and his duster. It's a real bad situation for Redar, but he's gonna do his damnedest to try and survive. So, first things first. Redar is gonna take some wild shots. First thing. Gonna roll a d6. Ooh, that's a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5 plus 4 equals 9. Oh, wow. It already did that for me. So we have Worker 1, which I don't think there's any way they can beat that. Even if they roll a 6, yeah, which they just did, that's still going to equal 7. Worker 1. So 7. Oh, but I have to choose if I'm killing them or if I'm sparing them. Oh no, but I kill or spare in a group. That's right. I have to choose if I kill or spare in a group. So I think for now it's just a disarming shot. So Redar's like spinning his pistols. He's the electricity is crackling off of the edge of his stunners. The swarm is screeching, and they're like tearing at his armor. He's pushing them all away. Eventually, as one of the claws, the mechanical claws, swings in Redar's direction, he manages to train his pistols on the head of that mechanized arm and take a double blast. He has to take a moment to stop batting away the swarm for a moment, so you can see a couple just like bite into his chest. He's, oh, stars above, get off of me! You're taking the shots, but manages to take one blast into the head of the mechanical arm, which just shatters it into pieces, right? And then the next shot catches the Brack in the arm, which just completely obliterates it, right? Like the rock formation arm just breaks it off of the body. There's probably like an oily spurt of some sort of dark liquid from like the leathery organic bits of the Brack, but it's very minimal. Most of it is rock, right? The arm explodes offward as the Brack falls back and like a turtle flipped on its back, like can't quite get back onto its feet, like groaning in pain and confusion. It's like weapon disabled, right? And as you can see, Inzora squeezes on the orb above his head, releasing another sonic pulse. which is like riling up the anger of the swarm. You hear another wave of screeches as they fall back onto Redar as he has to go back to spinning his pistols and his stun batons to fight them off. Nar says Brack blasted to bits and pieces. Brack blasted after taking Brack a breaking the Brack. Inzora says, don't let him get any further. Boom, boom, boom. Now bring Redar down. Boom, 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 boom. As the other Brack looks over, nods, and then presses onto the mechanized arm as it shoots forward, ready to try and choke the life out of Redar. So, once again, we're going to roll a die. We got a 4, plus a 4 is an 8, which, once again, I don't think there's any way they can beat that with a +1 bonus, right? That's going to be a maximum 6. There's another arm which is wheeling towards Redar. Redar leaps to the side as the giant mechanical claw bites into the earth. You can see tears up a huge chunk of it, truly showing the power of some of these future mechanized tools. Would have just probably crunched Redar's humanoid form into a nice compact ball. But Redar's a bit too swift for it. Leaps to the side, takes another few shots. This time, since he leapt out of the way of the mechanized arm, is able to just take shots at the Brack straightforward. Blasts one arm and one leg off, right? Like one leg to drop him, another one to blast the arm off. And this Brack falls face forward this time, but once again, it's sort of like misshapen rock body, displaced weight. It just sort of plods around in a circle trying to get back up onto its one leg. But the mechanized arm tool has been shot too far out of his grasp. And even if he could grab it, he has one arm. So the situation for him is not looking good. That is when we have our other friend, the boss, Inzora. If you defeat both workers, their boss pulls out a mining laser and attacks at range. Okay, so 0 Brack workers left, but we have Inzora. Now, Inzora operates at a +1 attack and a +1 defense. So, I think with the mining laser, that implies ranged, right? So I think holding the orb above his head, seeing both workers, defeated, Inzora shakes his head grimly. I didn't want it to have to come to this, Redar, but you leave me no choice. And throws the orb. And this is when he throws the orb at Redar, right? Which releases another pulse, which localizes all of the swarm swirling around Redar. Just this death circle of these black screeching shadows around the space cowboy. As you can see, that's when Inzora reaches behind him into his backpack and produces what appears to be this silver tube, which is sparking and kindling with some superheated energy, charging up this mining laser, drilling by pure energetic force alone as he trains it on Redar, sort of catching him in between the rage of the swarm and having to dodge a persistent diffusion beam, right? I will give our regards to the Admiral on your behalf. It releases a beam of light, probably burning through, as the swarm is circling, right? Because the beam is a constant ray of energy. The swarm is probably flying into the beam and immediately incinerating or being eviscerated and falling into sundered chunks of organic mass on the ground. But Inzora doesn't care as long as he gets the job done with Redar. And Redar is fighting for his life. The swarm has now localized on him. They are biting him and scraping into his leathers, even as he is dodging and spinning. trying against all odds. Okay, so we have a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once again, I don't think there's any way, even with a 6. Okay, so Enzora gets a 6. And we have a 9. But Enzora also has 0 defense now, since we burned through one of their defenses. So, oh man, what does that look like? You know, just because Enzora, we've established in the fiction, does not have to worry about the organic hunger of the swarm, right? And Redar has been disarming all of the Brack, literally and figuratively. But Enzora does have 1 defend left, right? I think Redar is trying to, like, you know, dodge the laser. And I think the laser actually cuts like a chunk out of him, like probably cuts a chunk out of his hat and his duster coat. You know, like one of the swirling arms of it that are flinging in the air as he's dodging, and just like burns a chunk out of his hat and out of his duster as he dodges, narrowly avoiding it. But he manages to shoot the gun, the mining laser, out of Enzora's hand, which just like explodes. You know, he manages to put a blaster bolt right into like the focal point of where the mining laser emanates. So there's like a plasmatic burst which just explodes and probably like tears off Enzora's like forearm, right? But Enzora doesn't have to worry about the swarm eating him. So I think in his desperation and his wanting to kill, wanting to neutralize Redar, Enzora picks up a chunk of his own displaced arm, or maybe even one of his friend's arms, as just like a bludgeon. And knowing that Redar is weaker in melee, or at least surmising at this point, right? Rushes Redar through the swarm and is going to attempt to beat him senseless. So, it's still a +1. We're gonna go, oh, they got a 6. And then we're attacking at a +2. Ooh, which is a 6. Which means we have to use a motivation. We have a couple to spend. Oh my god. We gotta spend it. We gotta spend another. We have to spend all of them. Oh my god, but we get it on the last one. So 6 + 2 = 8. So literally using all of our motivation, using every last will that we have to live, as we are being bludgeoned, thunk, 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 by the arm, by the severed arm of one of his own Brack soldiers. Hey! Thank you so much, Emily Olivey. I appreciate you following the stream. Thank you so much for taking a chance on level 1 adventuring and the solo TTRPG adventure. You are much appreciated. Thanks for being a part of the team. Nar says, if Redar shoots one of the head, Brack's brain blasted to bits after breaking bread breaks into brawl. How far can you go? How far can you go, Nar? I am not convinced you found the end of this tale, of this alliterative tale. But Redar is like being pummeled to death by Enzora. You can feel his muscles giving out, like bones are cracking, the jaws are working through his duster. You know, his vision is fading. Things are looking pretty grim and pretty dark, but he manages, as he's looking at all the chaos of the swarm and Enzora, he notices that silver orb in the ground nearby, and Redar leaps down, or crouches down, right, leaps forward, spins his stun pistol, the ends, the electrical butts of his pistols forward, and slams them into Enzora, leaping forward. The strength of his jump, the sudden attack, and the off-kilter balance of Enzora, because of now missing an arm and now holding another rocky arm, all coalesce into Redar being able to force Enzora off of his feet and fall backward onto the sonic beacon, right? And so there is a fizzle of energy and a crack underneath Enzora's stony back as the pulses that are releasing from the cave, finally give out, and the swarm, now no longer roused to action in this localized area, screech and squeal. Enzora, his chameleon-like multi-eyed body looking in multiple directions. Redar raises the pistols upward, just like starts firing wildly into the top of the cave, just trying to generate noise and rustling and scaring up the swarm, and manages, and of course, shooting a few in the process, just in the wake of his shots, and manages to disturb enough of the swarm with this activity to disperse them, and they all fly in different directions. Some flee back into the cave, some rush out into the wastes, looking for new victims. But all that being said, the swarm has been dispersed. Enzora lies on the ground, incapacitated, disarmed. All of his workers are also defeated. So we have success, and we had to use all of our momentum, which does suck. I am afraid of not having some momentum moving forward, but it was worth it to do for the narrative. Weight of the situation, being forced into melee where we're a lot weaker. I think that's a lot more fun. And so now we can resolve the lead, right? To create a lead personality, your third lead is lead, they become the target. So if I go to, okay, so that doesn't come in till target. We have our showdown. All right, we already got that. I like how the showdown said, you find them in a crowd, which, like, we were at a crowd initially, but then I decided to take it in a different direction. That's okay. It was cool. I liked what we did. I had another idea too, but it just happened to play out in a different way. Okay, so we had our first lead. Now we have to decide what we're doing with them. And to be honest with you, I think I'm gonna spare them. I know they just tried to murder us, but they are Old Empire. They are our benefactors, and now we know that they're a part of like a conspiracy, right? So they're worth more to us alive than they are dead. If we can keep them alive, we may be able to learn more information about what's going on with the inner workings of the Old Empire and Waldo's information, technology that he stole. If we kill them, we gain nothing, right? So I think that's what we do. I think we take the favor for sparing the hostile, right? Okay, if you fail an attack after exhausting, okay. So what does that mean, ultimately? I think that means, we're standing, we're still straddling Enzora. We've just fired our pistols into the air. We brush off the last of the swarmlings off of us. Hey, thank you so much, Otter Bear. Thank you for being the second new follower on the stream tonight for some TTRPG action. You are so appreciated, your time and energy. I hope you join us for more sessions moving forward. Thank you. Appreciate you. So we're straddling Enzora. The pistols have blasted into the air. We knock the rest of the swarmlings off us. We're like spent, right? Like we're like we almost collapse on top of Enzora. We're breathing so heavy, and there's a moment where I think Enzora like does try and roll us off or like make a move, but we just plant our pistol like right against, you know, what we surmise to be what would be the brain mass of this like rocky creature, and we say, "Don't you think about moving one pebble. You hear me?" And then the equivalent of, you know, a rock elemental alien's gulp, you know, the grinding of stones, you know, happens underneath the body of Enzora. "The directive is understood." "Good. Now, I don't know what you and Waldo and the rest of this salvaging crew got worked out together, but it's quite clear to me, at least at this point, y'all got some business going down with one another that don't involve the rest of your old Empire associates, ain't you?" "This one cannot speak to the nature of Waldo Nukili." "I don't need you to speak about nothing but what I'm asking you, and that's right now, is there information that you are withholding from me, and by proxy, the Admiral? Because if so, there's a reason for me to not plant this blaster straight between your eyes. And if there ain't, then there ain't. You understand?" I may have information pertinent to the Empire of Waldo's deeds, confidential, classified. Good. That's all I needed to hear. Now, I'm gonna phone in your good friend, or at least probably was your good friend up until about a few moments ago. What was his name? Tarl Nar? I have to look up. I erased his name before I wrote it down in the in the destination. Yeah, Tarl Narson, I think was his name. That's what I'm gonna say it was now. Yeah, Tarl Narson. I just looked at my notes. You might have had a good friend of Tarl Narson once, but I imagine he's going to have some more questions for you over at Fulcrum Point. And I think he's going to want me to deliver him to you and your friends to him quite personally. Savvy? Yes. It is known to Enzora. Very good. Now I'm going to help you up on your feet, or what's left of them. And don't you get any smart ideas about running, because I can take them feet away from you just as quickly as I gave them back. And that's when Enzora looks over to his workers. Do as the nomad says. We will be escorted to Tarl Narson. And the other Bracks slowly nod their head, you know, beginning to understand the weight of their situation. Mighty fine to acquiesce. Alright. If you're done trying to assassinate me by way of wild animal, I think we can be on our way. And that's whenever he helps everybody up. And he keeps a pace behind him. You know, a pistol trained at their backs. Now start walking. Get to your site. Tell your crew you're not going to see him for a little while. Maybe arrange for a transport, you know, just to make everything nice and smooth and simple for us. It will be done. And we will lead Enzora and the Brack back to the construction site where they can arrange for pickup back to Tarl Narson. And we can learn a little bit more information about this conspiracy moving forward. But I think that might be a good place to end for tonight. For our first return back to Notorious / Outsiders. We got our first lead. I think the first lead out of 3 is a really good spot to maybe leave some exploration for next session. So yeah, let's put a pin in this for now, and we can revisit it later on. Let me go back to just chatting. Wonderful, nice. Happy to be back here in full screen mode with the rest of the gang. So yeah, thanks for joining everybody tonight. What you have just watched, and presumably will watch in our next session, was Outsiders. Outsiders is the sequel. Now, look at me, I'm being very self-conscious about my hair. I'm probably looking silly that entire time. What you were watching and witnessing was Outsiders. That is the sequel to Notorious. These are both solo TTRPGs written by Jason Price, also known as Always Checkers, that are centered around bounty hunting and shenanigans and adventure in the deep galaxy. It's styled after Star Wars, but it's its own universe. You can get copies of these games at itch.io. And I will put links down below, especially when this hits YouTube, for you to download your own. Notorious is where I think if you're planning on playing a trilogy, you're recommended to start, although you can use elements such as the different bounty hunter archetypes from Outsiders if you like the different types of bounty hunters that are present in that release first. And then if you want to play trilogy mode, you can then bleed your way back into Outsiders. And then for your last episode, your last arc, you sort of mix the prompts from Outsiders and Notorious together. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing for the next couple of sections. And I really hope that you enjoy the products, I should say. They're incredibly well designed. I know that I fumbled through a couple of the rules, but it's because it's been a while since I played. But once you commit those little gameplay loops to memory, they're very easy to recall and summon up on the fly and improv with. And I just really love that Outsiders expands upon the lore of Notorious in that the factions all still exist, but as like affiliate factions. So it still has threads to the original storylines, but kind of branches off in their own unique ways. I think that's very fun. And I like the idea that you're in a different sector of space. It kind of gives you some freedom to play with different narrative beats, like we're doing with Redar. But yeah, can't recommend Outsiders or Notorious enough. It's so hard for me to remember the names because they're the same series, but they're different titles. So I want to call I want to call Outsiders Notorious too, but it's not that. That's why I keep hanging myself up on the title. But yes, I really hope that you take a look at them. I will link them below, and I hope you play a session of your own after you watch the trilogy of Redar Kent, of course. Nar says, so, City of Heroes tomorrow? Maybe. Actually, no, wait. Tomorrow, I think actually I might have a short stream week this week because tomorrow I think I have a birthday to attend. And then Wednesday is Valentine's Day. So I might be busy. But yeah, I think this might be my only stream for the week. So I might have to hold off on COH until next week, Nar, unfortunately. Because I know that you and I hit the mean streets of Paragon City together. But maybe you can catch a level or two in the meantime. And then we'll be more synced up for the missions. But what other things do I have to talk about? Thank you for watching. I've been your host and Dungeon Master, Wolf Scott. Thank you for our 2 new followers we picked up during this broadcast. If you are new to Level 1 Adventuring, who are we, what are we? We are a stream dedicated to role-playing games, both in their digital and paper forms. I run a bunch of different RPGs, single-player RPGs like you watched tonight. I also do group games. I run a 5th edition campaign, which you can watch on our YouTube channel, all previous episodes, new episodes coming out on Twitch here. And we also play digital games. We play Baldur's Gate, we play City of Heroes, like Nar mentioned. So tons of content for you to see and enjoy once they hit your feeds. Speaking of hitting your feeds, follow us on all the things. YouTube, Twitch, you'll get notified when we go live. Twitter, you'll get notified when we go live. The Discord will also notify you when we go live, but also you can just hang out with us and chat and have fun, and that's primarily why we want you there. And also, speaking of the Discord, I'm going to do a little quick shift over to Play by Post here. The Discord runs a 5th edition play-by-post D&D campaign. It's West Marches style. It's groups of players adventuring together in rotating groups. There's factions. It's in like the homebrew world that the campaign is set in. It's really casually paced because it is play-by-post via Discord. So easy to get into if you are both a veteran or a newbie alike. We'd be glad to have you, glad to teach you. We hope to have you there. It's been a lot of fun running games for the community so far, and I want to keep doing it. So I want to grow that community. We hope to see you there. And a big shout out to all of our stream partners: Streamlabs, Stream Audio, Stream Spell, Epidemic Sound, AI Twitch Bot, all of the services that make our streams more fun to interact with and watch and listen to. We highly appreciate you. And if you want to take your stream to the next level, all those links are down below in the description. If you use them for your stream, we get a little hit as well. Helps you out, helps us out, helps everybody out. We all appreciate it. So, please do that if you're considering it. With that being said, I think that is all of my announcements. Nar says, got a Valentine's Day date? Maybe. I got some plans. It's gonna be a good time. But I think with that being said, that's all my usual stuff. I'll see y'all next week. Maybe sooner if I find an extra day this week to sneak one in. And if I do, I'll let Nar know to see if we can COH it up. But for now, this might be the only one. It might be a TBH kind of situation. But yeah, I hope to see you all in the next one, or on the broadcasts on YouTube or any other platform. Sorry, I'm trying to look for my next, transition, because I want to roll the outro to show everyone who donates to us on Patreon or through the Discord, because your time and energy is so appreciated, and then I'm going to roll those beautiful out credits. So, with that, rest easy, be well, drink your water, have a good night, and I will see you soon. So, until then, have fun.